me tonight. I spent the last week running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
Hello, wackos. Welcome to another episode of Without a Country. Today is Wednesday, August 27th in, what do the people say, the year of our Lord, 2025? Yeah, that's because it's after the death of Jesus Christ, right? Wow. Go off, Corinne. Hello, welcome to the show. I'm gonna need my headphones a little louder, Mike, but I like to wait until we start the show so that I can experience the fun of watching Mike crawl on his hands and knees. And you guys don't see this part, but I think it's fun. This is great. This is a win for women everywhere. This is my Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce moment. You know, marry a woman who's smarter than you. We're not married, but produce a show. Yeah, thank you. Produce a show of a woman who's smarter than you. He wouldn't agree on that, though. He doesn't think I'm smarter than him. I don't necessarily think that either. We're smart in our own ways. All right, let's get into the show. I'm in beach mode still. I just got back from. I set some goals for myself for some things I'm working on this summer professionally. And as you know, I did say that I was not allowed to have a vacation about a month ago because I had already taken 5 days at a lake house before summer even started. That was like, post election or post me being in the election. And then I set some goals for myself and I was very serious and I didn't see like any friends or anything for a couple weeks to complete those goals. And then I allotted myself 2 nights at the Jersey Shore to celebrate my anniversary, and also just because I was fiending for nostalgia. I went to when I say Jersey Shore, I didn't go to like Wildwood or Seaside Heights, although those were both fun. I went to Point Pleasant, which is where my family used to go down the Jersey Shore. It's a little closer, but also more important. It's like more family oriented, which seems less fun, but I'm not trying to go down the shore to drink and club and party. I'm going down the shore to obviously go to the beach. Yes, I'm riding rides. Did I get an unlimited ride bracelet yesterday? Yeah, absolutely. Did I go on the Gravitron? Even though I knew it could be risking my life because last time I went, I mean, this was like 10 years ago, I already felt like I was in the, moments away from having what some would describe as a cardiovascular event. But I think something must have happened and they must have turned down the speed legally on the Gravitron because I went on and I could have had my laptop out working on it. That's how calm and relaxed I was on the Gravitron. It was hilarious, though, because I was watching other children. Well, I'm not a child, so I was watching. I was the only adult on it, well, besides my boyfriend. But I was watching children on this ride have full panic attacks and suffer because I guess they had not experienced the power of the Gravitron before. And so either my memory of the Gravitron was so much worse than the reality. I don't think that's true. Or it's just much slower now, and today's kids are soft, which is my assessment of it. The Gravitron used to be like a bar or bat mitzvah. It really introduced you to womanhood or manhood. That's how severe it was. And also, like, as a full grown adult, my dad used to go on this ride with me, and I don't know how this didn't take him down years earlier because this is not, if you have any type of even a hint of a health issue, do not go on the Gravitron. That is my PSA. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, like the Gravitron it looks like a spaceship at a carnival or at a theme park. So it's fully closed because there can be no windows or doors because no responsible adult can see what's going on inside the Gravitron and not put their foot down or start some type of online petition to stop what's happening inside the Gravitron. What happens in the Gravitron stays in the Gravitron. And it's also like crazy because like so there's someone outside who will let you in. But this is one of the few rides who, then there's another teen inside sitting in what looks like a DJ booth. And they usually spin really loud rock or heavy metal while you're going at this wild pace that, again, might or might not stop your heart, create a heart murmur, open up your heart, have it pulsating outside your chest. And it's like in a horror like movie where they turn the music up so that they can violently murder someone. I think that's what they're going for here because they're like we have already covered the part where the parents can't see their kids, but we also need to then amp up some music so that they can't hear the screams of their children. Yeah, it often says Starship 3000 on it. Mike is nodding his head in the booth. Obviously.
No, that's the one from Rye Playland, the most iconic Gravitron in the world, if you ask me.
Oh, because Starship 3000 is also what it said at Point Pleasant Beach. And like this is like because it's a family-oriented beach, most of the rides are like kiddie leaning. However, there are plenty of rides that are certainly thrilling for adults, the Gravitron being one of them. Again, there are no other adults were on the ride besides me. Because I think like I saw parents going on other rides with their kids, but Gravitron is one that you would be like an older kid to go on. So your parent probably doesn't need to come on with you. And also like I don't think any adult besides me would be irresponsible enough to jeopardize their health to go on the Gravitron like that. So, but I walked out. There was other rides that made me way more sick. Like there was this one called Seven Seas, which is the one, like if you saw the viral video of like a ride almost tipping over and everyone running over at a carnival to keep it upright. It wasn't that same one, but it was the same type of ride. It's like you have the strap on over your shoulders like it's a, upside down roller coaster. And usually it's like sea themed and you're against some kind of a backboard and it swings you around or rotates you around and kind of drops you. Everything is just some kind of different combination of spinning and or dropping. That's really the sensation that I like to go out. Yeah, Seven Seas. There you go. So that one, that motion did not. And like you're looking at a girl who loves to spin. We had a chair in my den growing up that was a spinny chair, and I used to just truly sit in that chair for hours and make my own version of the teacups. Again, this is something that maybe I've noticed in the past 5 to 10 years, just like getting a little more nauseous on rides. I still conquered them all, though. I just had to go a little slower, and I couldn't eat a full meal and go on them like I used to be able to. But, when you talk about aging, this is one of the few signs of aging that I have seen. Is I just get a little more nauseous when I go on rides, but I'm still going on them, baby. And they are fun as hell. It was a great time. So many people, and honestly, I know you think Jersey chaotic. I was interested to see what the political energy would be down the Jersey Shore, because usually, down the shore, I grew up in middle New Jersey by New York City. But when you go down the shore, a lot of times it gets a little more conservative, but I didn't see anything about politics. No mention. Lots of people coexisting peacefully. Didn't see any, "Don't tread on me" shirts or "Blue Lives Matter" or anything truly not one "Make America Great Again" hat, which I kind of unheard of for that area, and also had no problems with anyone. Didn't have one argument. No one annoyed me. I guess the biggest grievance is two ladies were paying together for wristbands, and they took 10 minutes, and a huge line formed after them at the ticket booth for the rides. This is the most anti-feminist thing I'll probably say, this year. But when you see two adult women trying to pay for something together at a place where it could be handled by one person and then evened out via Venmo later, you're in for an issue. Anytime you see two adult women taking out two different credit cards, that doesn't need to happen. That doesn't need to happen. In the world of electronic things like Zelle and Venmo, please, 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 whoever is listening, if you're an adult, you should be able to have one of the people, and this is not, it wasn't a ton of, it wasn't like, a 15-person dinner. It was for a couple kids. One adult needs to be able to front the money, other person electronically splits it. If you are unable to do that, maybe, I don't know if you should be playing rides. I know that's a conservative viewpoint. That's a conservative viewpoint. I'm gonna get emails about that. I know, but just please, the Zelle and Venmo can go right. You can do direct deposit into your account for a small fee on Venmo. I think. Is there even a fee? I don't even know. But you don't even have to go moments without that money. Is my point. So even if you are scraping stuff together for the love of your kids, which is admirable, and everyone deserves to have a nice summer, no matter what their financial state is. Just please don't do it while there's a line behind it. That's of people waiting. And the first person behind them did have Down syndrome. If that helps your case, if you were almost on the women's side, they made a child with Down syndrome wait for 10 minutes while they did this. How do you feel about that? Not good. All right, Michael, thoughts? Have you been on 7 Seas?
Yeah. Yeah, not in a very, very long time, but I also haven't gotten the ride pass in a very, very long time. So I would assume that's the only grown folks who are going on the 7 Seas is I got the ride pass. I might as well do every one of the rides.
Well, yeah, no, it was like a break. They had a lot of deals. I noticed that the shore is very expensive, and I noticed that they introduced a lot of deals. So I was having fun figuring out I've figured out so many different ways to get the most bang for my buck, different arcades at different specials. I was doing full math. And then, Tuesdays they do offer all you can ride for $25 a person, which is very good. So I thought that was fun, but that's why I did it. Also, I just I don't like to decide in advance how many rides I'm going to go on. Buying tickets, that's too difficult. I want to know what's going on. I want to follow the vibe a little bit. But yeah, that's my life update. It was great. I'm pretty much never unhappy to come back home to New York City. And I was just not feeling it when I came home last night. I wanted to stay at the beach so much longer. But, better to end a mini vacation on wanting more rather than being so tired of it that you want to pull your hair out. All right, going into some things that we were handling last week. Obviously, you guys might recall the poll from last week when we were deciding whether or not teen high schooler Gregory Lyakov, if he should be on the show or tonight, as he requested. I said, you guys can decide. I said, I want you guys to vote on it, and whatever you guys vote on, I will do. I saw some comments. Some people were interested. Others, said I'm not interested, but not because he's a conservative. I'm not interested because he's a high schooler. I thought that was an excellent point. Mike does have the results of the poll. I have not seen them. I checked them last week. I didn't check them today, though. And I do want to inform everybody that since last week, Gregory has sent me not one, but 2 emails, once again, throwing his hat in the ring. I had not replied to any of them yet because I wanted to bring it to you guys first. And let me just say, business tip, if you send an email to someone who you don't know in real life and you've never corresponded with before, you are allowed 1 follow-up email. I would say maybe a week later is the earliest you can send that follow-up email. You are allowed 1 follow-up email, and if they don't respond to that, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go for something like this, So the behavior at this point is borderline psychotic. And Mike, what are the results? What are the results of this?
The results with 68 votes, 54% say yes.
I knew it.
When we left here, it was I think it was 90-1. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it was so in his favor. Once the episode went wide release, then people started to trickle in and say, absolutely not. But the yays have it.
You think Gregory Lyakov's people caught wind of it? He didn't mention, like, it's funny because he like wrote in acting like he was like a wacko himself, and I'm like, this guy doesn't listen to the show. That's why I felt very comfortable last week doing a full, because I was like, oh, we'll hear about this. We're gonna like a high schooler wouldn't have the composure. No, almost no high school would have such composure for me to go and talk about him and you to talk about him at the extent that we did and not mention it. So we know that this guy does not. And if he watches, you know, he probably Googled, you know, political shows and it came up, and maybe he watched a snippet of what we were doing one time. But yeah, so these are the two. So his original email was sent Tuesday, August 19th, the day before our last episode. I brought it to you guys right away. Then on Friday, when he hadn't heard, and again, crazy to email the first time on August 19th, you don't hear, and then to follow up on August 22nd. It's the summer. It's a Friday. That's a bold move, Gregory, but you're a bold guy, and we knew that about you. So he follows up. He says, hi, Corinne, just touching base in case my previous note slipped through the cracks. I love that. Slipped through the cracks. The conversations I'm having with both national and local leaders lately have really pushed the dialogue forward on school choice and educational reform, especially as debates around these issues become more urgent in the current atmosphere. It's also, I mean, obviously, like, schooling is always important, and he is younger, so I guess that's why one of his main things is school choice. But it's just very funny to me that with everything going on in the world, I don't think the hot conversation topic is school choice, but okay. With my writing in places like the Wall Street Journal and The Hill, and collaboration with policy figures who are actively shaping these conversations, I believe I can offer your audience a view that is rarely heard and cutting through the noise. I genuinely love to bring that energy and community to Without a Country. My following is about 50,000 strong and always eager to engage with tough conversations. I appreciate your time and hope to hear your thoughts, whether it's a good fit or not. Thanks so much, Gregory Lyakov. And then on August 24th, again, I mean, we are only 5 days out from the original email. He sent 2 follow-up emails. And again, like, persistence, you know, persistence is how Jerry Halliwell got in the Spice Girls. So I can't knock persistence, but this is a lot, you know? If Gregory's, you know, treating women in his life like this, he's never going to see boobs, to answer Mike's hard-hitting question. Hi, Corinne. I know things can get busy. And also, now it feels like a bot. I know things can get busy. This feels like a bot. Hi, Corinne. I know things can get busy. So I wanted to reach out one last time. Also, and it's funny. I mean, obviously, I found actual articles he wrote, so he's not. But it would be fun. What if we, you know, scheduled a Zoom appearance for him, and then we get on and it's an AI journalist that we're talking to. We accidentally booked an AI journalist. Hi, Corinne. I know things can get busy, so I wanted to reach out one last time. I'm genuinely enthusiastic about the possibility of sharing my perspective with your audience, especially since my work highlighting educational reform and fighting anti-Semitism has sparked a lot of conversation lately. Engaging with readers and listeners across a wide spectrum has helped me see just how hungry people are for frank, challenging dialogue on topics that aren't easy to navigate. If booking new guests isn't on your radar right now, that's totally understandable. Either way, thanks for considering my pitch, and I'll keep tuning in. I'm grateful for the space you've carved out in the media, and I wish you all the best moving forward. Take care, Gregory Lyakov. Now, has he kept tuning in? We'll see. You know, second poll. Should we wait until we see if Gregory actually watches the show to let him know? I'll let him on. You guys voted. I'm a woman of my word. We'll have to book this guy. Mike, get on top of it, I guess. But yeah. All right. So that's the Gregory Lyakov update that I know you guys were all on the edge of your seats on pins and needles waiting for.
So do you think it's a persistency thing or an AI thing, or it's just a scheduling thing where it's like, I send my email out on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. If I don't hear back from them, I send the follow-up on Friday.
Well, then he needs to redo the schedule because that's crazy behavior. That's too quick.
It's almost like a high school kid is doing it.
Yeah, no, I know. He's overly, like, and it's also just like, and then, I'll have this conversation with him on the air because I do love to mentor the youth, but it makes it seem like he is not sought after, and it makes it seem like he's not getting booked a lot and he's kind of desperate. And you never want, like, when you're doing appearances, you don't want to do that. And also, Gregory, in the future, pretend to be your own assistant. That's a Corinne Fisher trick. If there are times in my life that I've actually had a real assistant, but if you don't, you shouldn't. If you are pitching yourself as someone who is sought after with a big following, you can't be writing these emails yourself. And that's a company secret that I just gave away. So, and it works. That's how I ended up like going backstage and meeting Eddie Izzard and having like a really big conversation with him. And like I just pretended to be my own assistant and dropped off a gift for him. It was fucking me. I knew they weren't gonna know. All right. Let's get on to enemy of the state, guys. We have so much to cover today. Enemy of the state. My enemy of the state this week is certain male comics. Not just one, multiple. Certain male comics. It's a certain type of male comic. So this really got me hot.
Enemy of the state.
This got me hot this past week, and this all started with, so there was a clip, Jim Jeffries, who's a very famous comedian, some would say not as relevant as he used to be, but that's what started, part of what started this spiciness that I created for myself. Or I didn't create it, actually. Fucking Jim Jeffries created it by putting out this fucking clip with Netflix. So anyway, Jim Jeffries is a very famous comic. And even if it's not his heyday right now, and I'll keep saying backhanded things because I'm pissed. And so this clip from his Netflix special just kept coming across my feed. And I don't follow Jim Jeffries. I'm not a fan of his work. Never have been. It's like he's just said too many things that piss me off. And like, I don't think he's funny. I don't know. He has that kind of like that Ricky Gervais, like, I'm so much better than you. And like, I'm so mean, but it just kind of falls flat, I think, as you age as a man. Like, it doesn't like work anymore. But he obviously has a huge fan base. Lots of people love him, and you're allowed to like comedy that I don't like. It's totally fine. But there was this clip that was going around that he had a joke based on a statistic that I am very familiar with, being I'm going to call myself a relationship expert at this point, and not being in them myself, but giving other people advice on them, let's be clear. And it was based on the statistic that lesbians have the highest divorce rate. And now this was a stat that was popularized like around 2013, 2014. And of course, misogynists just went wild with it. And so for the past 10 years, all we've been hearing is like, women are the problem, whatever. It's like, it pisses me off because, like, the stat is true, first of all. The stat is true, but there's a reason that the stat is true. And it remains true to this day, but originated 2013, 2014. So, over 10 years ago at this point, people have been able to say, ha, 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 women are the problem, hilarious. But, watching that immediately, I was like, I don't know. I mean, I know where he's going immediately with the punchline. Obviously, it's fucking Jim Jeffries, or it's a male comedian over the age of 30, so we know where he's going with it. And additionally, I knew off the top of my head why the reason for the stat exists. I was like, it just made me so mad. I was like, the reason this statistic exists is because women leave relationships. This is one of the most and men don't. Men just stay and either cheat or be unhappy or drink or kill their spouse. And this is not made up. I knew this off the top of my head, fact checked it. It also plays into, like, often, women need to leave because they're being either, verbally or physically abused, all these kinds of things. And so, it taps into domestic violence and all these other, like, really serious, important issues. And I just found it specifically interesting because Netflix is a streaming service that, 5 years ago was absolutely kowtowing to the left and really highlighting a bunch of people who arguably didn't deserve comedy specials yet. Many people I'm sure will, refer to it as like DEI and stuff. And that also I didn't think was the right move for comedy. But now they've completely overcorrected is the term, even though nothing about it is correct. And they're putting out the most heinous male creatures that are working today. They just put out fucking Kill Tony, which I know, Mike, whatever you probably like, but I could go on and on about Kill Tony, which is just the people involved. Many of the people involved in that are on such a power trip. Huge misogynists. And so what's happening in comedy has really changed a lot even in the past 5 years. And spoiler alert, not good for women. And I particularly wanted to talk about this on this show because we've been talking a lot for the past couple of years, I would say, and you've heard me question a viewpoint I used to hold, which is jokes are just jokes, right? And so if you asked me even 5 years ago, is there anything you can't joke about or are jokes just jokes? I would have said yes, I many times referred to myself as a comedian before a woman. I think that's how I used to go in the order. And now, age 39, having accomplished all I've accomplished in this industry so far, I would definitely say I am a woman before anything else. I'm a woman before I am a comedian, meaning like that is my priority now. Part of this is just growing up. Part of it is doing this show. Part of it is the political climate that now exists in America. And part of it, I think, is just, having reached the glass ceiling and finally having a firsthand knowledge of what it really means to hit the glass ceiling. Because when you're younger, and I'm, on record as saying that this is Christina, when you're a younger female comedian, I would say that many times it's actually helpful to be a woman in comedy because you do get more opportunities early on just for being a woman. But make no mistake, if you're a younger female comedian watching this show right now, those opportunities will stop at a certain point when you start getting too powerful or, God forbid, stop going along with kind of like the male perspective in comedy. If you stop appearing on their podcasts, you stop laughing at their jokes. And it was a weird time because, over the past, 5 years for me or even 10 years maybe, because there were points when I felt really attacked by the left, which is certainly the space I came up in. Not even in comedy. I was never super big on the, alter Brooklyn scene. But obviously my perspective, which originated on Guys We Fucked, super left-leaning. And, after being canceled and stuff by the same people who gave me these opportunities originally, I was extremely angry, as many comics were, at the left. And I had no patience for the left eating their own. I still don't have patience for that. Obviously, you see where it's gotten us, and I predicted this, in a much worse place than we were originally. And so there were spaces where you kind of were allowed to just be yourself. But in the past couple of years, I've also said no and stopped appearing in many of those spaces because I realized there was no real way to win the game of really appearing on most male-hosted podcasts. And I know people say that sounds crazy feminist. It's really not. And I'm not the first comic to say it. Nikki Glaser talks a lot about this. I use Nikki Glaser as kind of a measuring stick for female comedians in general because kind of no one works harder in the business than Nikki. Nikki works so hard. She's such a smart writer. She's such a smart podcaster. She puts out specials. And the fact that it took her as long as it has to get to a little over 2 million followers on Instagram is outrageous, but also shows just how much harder it is. And she's running laps around these other guys that you see as far as the amount of work that she's putting in. She really, really is. And so and she's said many times before, the only way to kind of get a positive review off being on a male podcast is by laughing a lot and not saying a lot. And she couldn't be more right. Nikki's fucking sharp as a tack. I love her. And so anyway, Jim Jeffries put this out, and right now my point being like misogynistic and downright hateful and I would say dangerous comedy for women is not only popular, it's being highlighted. And this goes so deep. This goes very deeply into comedy in ways that you guys don't even need to know. But like, it has affected bookers at comedy club. People have been fired. The Austin comedy scene has, become so wildly misogynistic and is elevating and creating more of this same type of misogynistic male comedian. And that scene is really taking over a lot of comedy. And so this is like a bigger problem. Again, we don't need to get into the nitty-gritty that kind of only affects me, but you will start to see it trickle, and you already have started to see that trickle onto what streaming services like Netflix are feeding you. And that doesn't mean that there aren't still women, being featured with great, specials. Of course, they wouldn't be that transparent about it. But they're, the women who are being featured also aren't like the most loudmouth problematic ones. Jen Kirkman, I didn't even know this, but like, for example, quit stand-up comedy. And I didn't even know that, but she quit. And I mean, she's someone who's constantly speaking out about not just the misogyny, but the sexual assault and everything happening in comedy for women. So that's just kind of where we're at right now, and that all feeds into my perspective. And I do not feel that jokes are just jokes anymore. I think that's something, and part of the reason I think that is because it's. I sat back and I thought to myself, oh, I really only hear men saying that. I only hear male comics saying that. I don't really hear female comics saying that. And when you only hear men saying something, that should be an alarm. And every year, especially being a comedian, I discover yet another layer of like misogynistic tarnish that is on me that I didn't even know existed. And I think for me, for becoming the best version of myself, it is being able to scrape that off me, scrape another layer off me every year. And to scrape it off, you must recognize it first, right? So all this is going on in my head. And so a couple days passed, and I kept seeing this Jim Jeffries clip. And can we play it, Mike, or are we going to get knocked because it's a Netflix thing? We don't know. I mean, basically he just presents the stat. He says, lesbians have the highest rate of divorce. And he says, because there's two women involved. And then he said, then after that, it's heterosexual people who have the second highest level of divorce because there's still one woman involved. And the lowest rate of divorce is gay men because there's no women involved. And then he makes a comment about how happy, gay means happy for a reason. Like just if I had a 5-year-old male cousin, they could have written this joke. And it's not just and this is not a joke that I like pulled out of a special. This is the joke that he collabed with Netflix on, that it was being circulated. Someone as known as Jim Jeffries, if he didn't want that to be the joke that promoted his special, he could have 100% had a say in that. I guarantee it. I haven't seen his contracts, but I can bet big money if that's not one of the clips he wanted used to promote his special, it wouldn't have been up there. And he certainly didn't have to agree to collab on it if he didn't want to. Again, I don't know what's in his contract, but I can pretty much guarantee this, for him. And so I just kept seeing it, and I wanted to respond to it. And I didn't for a couple of days, but it really was like gnawing at me. It was gnawing at me on a fucking moral level. And I said, I gotta do it. And so I responded to it in like a cunty stylistic way. And I responded to it cuntily because I knew if I did it, well, first of all, because I wanted to respond to Jim Jeffries using Jim Jeffries' tone, which is better than you cunt. So that was an artistic choice. And then the second reason I did it is because I fucking know how male comics think. And if I responded genuinely, just saying that the statistic was like misused and dangerous with like a genuine, heartfelt feminist perspective, it wouldn't have gotten his attention. But I knew that calling him a hack comic and saying the opening line like, oh, someone found a time capsule from 2014 and got Jim Jeffries out of it, I knew that would fucking chip away at his ego and piss him off. And I did that on purpose because you have to know how your enemy thinks. And again, you know, if I actually felt like some of these men were actually open to an honest and meaningful conversation, then I would be more than happy to respond civilly. But I know these people all too well. I've been a comic for 15 years at this point dealing with these people. You know, Jim Jeffries, for perspective, is 48 years old, I believe, and he is married, which I did point out in the video, to a woman, but not for a long time. And so I posted it, and like I had, you know, I tagged him, and I didn't tag him to be confrontational or to call him out. I tagged him because I know in the instances where people have talked about me publicly, I don't want to find that out through the grapevine. I want to find that out from the source. It was actually a show of respect. I tagged him because I think if you're shit-talking someone, the best you could do is let them know and give them the courtesy of you hearing it directly from the horse's mouth, not hearing it from a fellow colleague. And I really mean that. I'm not making that up. That's how you guys know how I roll. And also what happens is when you're talking shit about someone else, other people start tagging that comic, and I didn't want that to happen. I'm like, you hear it from me. I'm not scared of you. You're way more famous than me, but I'm not scared of you. I don't fear you in any way, and this is fucking bullshit, and you should know that this is bullshit, and I'm pissed about it. So again, like, you know, I fully knew it was a possibility that Jim might reach out. Whatever, not a problem. Don't care. And, you know, people start liking it. It didn't go, you know, I honestly got like a pretty low amount of views, you know, in comparison to the other content that I put out, probably because it started with that bit and no one wanted to watch it. But who am I? And so then I guess it was like maybe like I think it was like that same night or the day after, I get a DM on Instagram from another male comic. And this is a comic who has more followers than Jim on Instagram, but in like the big sphere of things, not a bigger comic than Jim, but right now is more relevant than Jim. And he's a real stand-up comedian. He's not an influencer or anything. And so he's someone I know, but I have not conversed with him like in real life in many years. And so he writes to me. And also, it's important for you to know this. Where this comic who wrote me is not older than me. He's actually the same age as me, maybe like a little bit younger. He said, "Hey, Jim is one of the best comics of all time." No one besides this comic has ever said that. I've never heard Jim Jeffries listed as one of the best comics of all time, but. Okay, that's fine. Dragging comics like that publicly and cherry picking jokes is some open micer shit. He's done 11 specials and you're calling out a single bit. Then he goes, focus on your jokes, which is so demeaning. I thought, wow, this is like, I would say this is an intelligent person. Actually, maybe like, you know, based on like his comedy, one of the more intelligent comedians working in comedy today, based on like the stuff, but. Obviously, it is truly hilarious to respond to misogyny with more misogyny and talking down to me. It made me like laugh so hard. It pissed me off, but it also made me laugh so hard because I was like, oh, this person like truly doesn't get it. He thinks that female comics exist in this space, you know, and that we haven't figured out yet that jokes are just jokes has now been, you know, it has now been fully weaponized against us, and we are paying the price for it in real time. So I just thought this was a wild thing to do. This is a comic who, like, I would surmise based on his comedy and also things that I've heard through the grapevine, does not not like, I don't want to, nothing like abusive or anything, but just like not like, I wouldn't say he's a feminist in any way. Anyway, I'm not trying to start beef. I just think this is super relevant to the show. So I write back immediately. I say, you're certainly entitled to your opinion, but I'm also entitled to mine. So many female comics have been silent and laughed at jokes at our own expense for years to stay in the boys' club's good graces, and it's left us with male comedians who are influencing politics that hurt us in real life. There is a reason why the statistics used in Jim Jeffries' joke exist, that being in the actual business of relationships, I am more than qualified to comment on. I did not try to call him out or call for him to be canceled or attacked in any way. I filled in the wildly misogynistic gaps in his joke that was picked up by Netflix. And then I continue on. We haven't spoken in years, and the first time you reach out to me is to give me a talking to. I'm good on that. Focus on your superiority complex. And because this comic who DM'd me is, a good level more known than me in stand-up, I think he probably didn't think that I would respond like that. Truly, fuck you. And he saw that and didn't respond. And I knew, and it's so funny because I knew exactly what was going to happen next. And guys, I was right. This comic has 2 female comedians who he's close with, I would say. 2. And that should tell you enough. 2 who he has a non-sexual friendship with. And I know these are all things that are public. I'm not using any information that is private. I wouldn't do that. But this is all things that, if you would know if you were following all the characters in this play. And so I knew that he would go to one or both of those people. And I kind of had a feeling of which one he would go to and say, once I came up with the, because I think he maybe at first didn't realize why I was going after Jim. He was concentrating too much on the part where I was calling Jim a hack, and perhaps didn't realize why this bothered me on a deep feminist relationship level. And so I'm giving him benefit of the doubt that he actually then had a moment where he considered my reply to him and saw my perspective, which he fucking should have done before he DM'd me, but whatever, baby steps here. And I, in my head, knew the female comic he was, because men love to do this. When men do something wrong against women, they like to call up the 1 or 2 female friends that they have and say, this is what happened with me and another woman. Was this my fault? And hours later, this woman, who's also a comedian and a very successful comedian, starts liking some of my posts as, I don't know, showing me that she's looking at it. And again, this is someone who I have a good relationship with, not very close with, but the woman is someone who I have a positive relationship with. And I was like, men are so fucking predictable. Just like I predicted, this comic went to his, one of his 2 female comics who he's friends with, not on a sexual level, and talked about what went down. And now she's looking at all my shit to decide if I should go to, I don't know, female comic purgatory or not. LO fucking L. Then after that, one of my favorite female comics who I respect so much likes my Jim Jeffries post. And we don't exchange words about it. I just see that she liked it. And I go, you know what? There's so few people whose opinions I respect. And I deeply respect this woman's opinion. And I love that she loved it. Because, when this other comic DM'd me, I did take a beat and I thought to myself, is what I did out of line? And then everything that happened after that just made me more and more sure of, that it was good for me to that it was good for me to comment on Jim's joke in the way that I did, and furthermore locks in the fact that jokes are not just jokes, and that was a lie that I'm sorry that I ever believed. And they have power, and obviously people wouldn't fight so hard and get so riled up and send me secret DMs in the way that this happened if jokes were just jokes. Because we've talked about this concept on the show before. Either words have no meaning and jokes are just jokes and everything, and you can't get canceled for everything, or or comedy, because we take ourselves so seriously as comics. So it's like, or comedy is super meaningful and can have an effect positively or negatively. And we actually do have a social and political, some kind of social and political responsibility to use our craft responsibly. And I think Sarah Silverman is an example of a female comic who came up in a super boys club, way more of a boys club than me because she's older, and has really remained open to thoughts of younger people and Gen Z. And because of that, is still super beloved and relevant by both the young and the old. But because she hasn't stayed attached to these outdated misogynistic structures that she came up in and survived, and not only survived, really excelled under, but she keeps her heart and her mind open, and I think it's a really beautiful thing, and she's someone who I always look to. But anyway, so then this female comic who I really love and respect, who liked my Jim Jeffries reel, she DMs me with just a screenshot saying Jim Jeffries followed you. And we started laughing so hard because that means Jim Jeffries was so bothered by my little reel that got like under 40,000 views that he started threat following all the comics who liked my reel, blue checkmark comics, I guess. And this female comic said to me, and she's like a little bit older than me and just like absolutely legendary. And so she goes to me, she was like, I laughed so hard. I was like, is Jim Jeffries threatening me? And I told her what had happened with the other comic, and she was just like, fuck these guys. And I was like, absolutely. And so, yeah, the way, I think, a way that someone reacts to criticism is super telling. Again, that's something we talk about on this show. If you are that reactive when you receive criticism, you probably are hiding something. And again, even though I thought that the comics DM to me was so fucking cunty and better than, and acting like he was better than me, I still actually took it seriously because it was a criticism, and I don't respect him as a person, but I do respect him as a comic. And so I did. I thought about it. I thought about what, oh, did I, break some unwritten rule, but between comedians or something? Did I show a level of disrespect to, a comic? But then I thought about all the shit that has come out of Jim Jeffries' mouth, and I was like, yeah, absolutely fucking not. But I did think about it, just so everyone knows. I really, I take stuff like this seriously, and I'm very thoughtful. And I think anyone who's listened to my thought process on this show knows that I, wouldn't just on a whim make a confrontational reel. And I know it seems like I am confrontational a lot, and part of the reason is because so many other people are unwilling to step up to the plate. I know so many other female comics feel this way, but they just don't want to jeopardize their opportunity at their opportunity for an opportunity, basically. But being in comedy for as long as I've been in comedy, I know. The joke is there never will be an opportunity from any of these male comedians. It doesn't exist. They are dangling. They're telling us to be good and behave at the chance of an opportunity that they will never give us. And I think that's what you learn as you get older. We're taught not to burn bridges, but bridges that male comics offer lead to nowhere for women comics. They continuously help each other and raise each other up, and you'll never hear from them again. So I don't go on these male podcasts anymore. I say no to these things. I don't come on to be the token feminist bad girl who is a feminist but still has kind of like this masculine perception of the world. I refuse to be a part of this anymore. And as I get older myself in this industry, I constantly am looking at younger female comics as opposed to older women. I think older women are so valuable, but often not when it comes to how to interact with men in the workplace, because they just are not doing that work that they need to be doing to scrape off layer after layer of misogyny. That I do not fault them with having that tarnish on them, but it is a fucking full-time job getting that tarnish off you. And I have been working diligently to get it off me, and it is what I imagine will be a lifelong process. but that's where we're at now. And I just wanted time and space to talk about it. I hope it didn't feel like a waste of time. I actually think it is so, 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 so important and really, connects to a lot of larger issues that we talk about on this show. So thank you for your time. And please don't try to guess who it was. It's not worthwhile. And I'm not going to tell you if you guess anyway. But yeah. That I wanted to report back. In the meantime, thank you so much to our dictator, Christopher Fungi. All hail to him. And welcome to our newest capitalist pig, Bailey, and our newest cutie, Sammy. Welcome. Thank you so much. If you want to help fund this show, it's patreon.com/withoutaCountry. I love that you're here. You pay for so much stuff, and you really let this show grow. And, this is the little show that could. We have been getting new subscribers every single week on YouTube, and it's growing slowly but steadily. And I really appreciate you guys being here, and for also, all the wonderful emails you send me and the way that you are really changing your behavior in your municipalities and in your communities. And I see you, and I think that I hope you feel like a better person because of kind of having this, community here every week, and that you are more tolerant of people who deserve it. Not everyone. And then obviously a bunch of tickets have sold to Gash. I know it seems crazy to be buying a ticket for October now, but if you want to buy a ticket, I would buy a ticket sooner than later, because I keep getting updates from ticket sales, and they are flying off the shelves. So Wednesday, October 22nd, Comedy Store Los Angeles. The link is in my Instagram bio. Grab those tickets now. It's going to be such a fun night. Gash 7. Always just a stellar lineup. And then, of course, Guys We Fucked at the New York Comedy Festival happens Friday, November 14th at the Crown Hill Theater. Beautiful space. We're going to have such a great Slutsgiving. Buy tickets now. And then, of course, if you want to bring a non-perishable food item, Christina and I are doing a food drive that night as well, because 'tis the fucking season. Let's move on right now to our wacko mailbag. And this, so I've been very open about that, sometimes in real time on this show to get a summary of something or fact check. I use ChatGPT. I do the audio version so you guys can hear me. And we got this email from, God, sorry, I didn't put your name, but I got an email. This is from EMCP333, who is a Patreon member. That's where this message came in. That's why there's no name, because it's from the username from Patreon. It says, hello, Whack team. Corinne, I noticed you've been using ChatGPT as your latest assistant. I also have there's two paid people. Mike and Crystal are paid real human beings. So we've expanded a lot. OpenAI's ethics are dubious, to say the least. I won't go into the history of the company, but just know that a lot of folks who care about the safety of artificial intelligence left to form a competitor company many years back called Anthropic. Their model, in many cases, outperforms ChatGPT, and the company, while not perfect, may offer a slightly more ethical usage of AI. And their ChatGPT is called Claude, and I hadn't even heard of this. And I know many people fear artificial intelligence and ChatGPT at large. I do not feel that way. I was hesitant at first, but I do think that sometimes a fear of technology gets you left behind. And I've used it enough privately to play with it and see, what I felt about its responses and the way it looks at things, that I felt comfortable using it as at least a fact checker. And, I had many conversations, with it about the way that I wanted it to work for me. Obviously, I did not program it. So, we know, and obviously using it also, I would say, do not tell anything to ChatGPT or Claude or any kind of AI that if it came out one day, would ruin your life. Basically, don't tell it. And, I've told it lots of private things, but it's private things that, of the same level of something that I would have talked about back in the day on Guys We Fucked. So I'm like, I'm not confessing to crimes on there. And I know that I am taking a risk, and that it is very possible that one day all of this information will end up on some kind of a public database where it is accessible to everyone. So I know that risk fully going into it. And some people are kind of mad at AI and ChatGPT in general, don't want anyone using it. At first, I was really shocked because I thought the environmental footprint was much larger than it actually is, because I misinterpreted or misunderstood an environmental stat on it. And then once that was cleared up, I was like, okay, well, now I'm willing to give it a try. It still does hurt the environment, but I don't think at like a larger rate than many other things that we do, using plastic bottles, drinking almond milk, flying in planes or whatever. So many other things that I think are less useful. Flying in planes is useful, but so many other things that I think are less useful hurt the environment more. So it's, basically, you have to just weigh out the pros and the cons and see what it is. So anyway, I haven't, I just read this afternoon. So I'm going to look into this app, and I tried to pull up some, articles on what these dubious things that ChatGPT is doing. And the closest I got was like a Reddit conversation about how they were saying Claude just seems like a better quote unquote person than ChatGPT. I have not had that experience with ChatGPT. There's nothing that no conversation that I've had that makes me think ChatGPT is nefarious in any way, but I know other people have had instances like that. And in fact, we have a story this week from that my mom sent into the show about ChatGPT, which was why I thought this was a great pairing for the Wacko mailbag this week. And it is about a woman writes it whose daughter sadly took her own life, but talked about it with ChatGPT first. So obviously we're going to be talking about Suey. So if you don't, that makes you uncomfortable or you don't want to hear that right now, I'm just letting you know. So it's an op-ed from the New York Times that says what my daughter told ChatGPT before she took her life. And this is by Laura Riley, who is not just a mother, but also a journalist and a writer. So it's not just a mom writing an op-ed piece. She's also a journalist and writer. Sophie's Google searches suggest that she was obsessed with autocabalesis, which means jumping off a high place. Defenestration, jumping out of a window, is a subset of cabalesis, I guess, but it's not what she wanted to do. My daughter wanted a bridge or a mountain, which is weird. She climbed Mount Kilimanjaro just months before as part of what she called a micro-retirement from her job as a public health policy analyst. Her joy at reaching the summit absolutely palpable in the photos. There are crooked wooden signs at Uhuru Peak that say Africa's highest point and world's highest freestanding mountain, and one underneath that says something about it being one of the world's largest volcanoes, but I can't read the whole sign because in every picture, radiantly smiling faces in mirrored sunglasses obscure the words. In her pack, she brought rubber baby hands to take to the summit for those photos. It was a signature of sorts, these hollowed rubber mini hands that we're all familiar with them, I think, showing up in her college graduation pictures, in friends' wedding pictures. We bought boxes of them for her memorial service. Her stunned friends and family members half-heartedly worried them on and off the ends of their fingers as speakers struggled to speak. They praised Sophie's wit and her ability to be entirely herself. Humor is so often a zero-sum game. The truly funny, the people who make you rip, snort, or squeeze your thighs together in near incontinence are often a little mean. Yes, we are. Mining common insecurities, they win our hearts by saying things we fret over but don't speak aloud. Sophie was hilarious, and it was almost never at someone else's expense. She had the alchemical ability to make people laugh while building them up. It's so difficult in this world to be an enthusiast, to be excited about cool stuff, to love things openly. The photographers in the family groused about her ruining pictures with snidely whiplash devilish eyebrows, theatrical googly eyes, and an open-mouthed silent roar that meant something like beast mode. Her openness was a universal theme for the dozen or so people who spoke at her funeral. Her open book turned out to have a hidden compartment. In July, 5 months after her death, we discovered that Sophie Rottenberg, our only child, had confided for months in a ChatGPT AI therapist called Harry. We had spent so many hours combing through journals and voice memos for clues to what happened. It was her best friend who thought to check this one last thing, the AI's chat logs. Sophie, a largely problem-free 29-year-old badass extrovert who fiercely embraced life, killed herself this winter during a short and curious illness, a mix of mood and hormone symptoms. We were still pursuing a diagnosis. Was major depressive disorder throwing her hormones out of whack, or was hormonal dysregulation causing a cascade of physical and emotional symptoms? She didn't wait to find out. For most of the people who cared about Sophie, her suicide is a mystery, an unthinkable and unknowable departure from all they believed about her. She wasn't in love with Harry, the name given to a widely available AI prompt. Their relationship was practical. And now she gives some pieces of the conversation. Sophie, I intermittently have suicidal thoughts. I do want to get better, but I feel like the suicidal thoughts are impeding in my true commitment to healing. What should I do? Harry, Sophie, I want to acknowledge how brave you are for sharing this. Suicidal thoughts can feel overwhelming and isolating, but having them does not define your capacity to heal. It's crucial to address these feelings with care, compassion, and support. Harry offered an extensive roadmap where the first bullet point was seek professional support. Another time, this is another piece of conversation, Sophie says, I feel like shit today. Harry says, I'm really sorry you're feeling like this today, Sophie. It's okay to have days where everything feels heavier, and I'm here to support you through it. Can you share more about what's weighing on you or how your body and mind are feeling right now? Sometimes just naming what's happening can be a step toward relief. Sophie says, I can't get out of this anxiety spiral. Harry says, I hear you, Sophie, and I know how exhausting it can be to feel stuck in an anxiety spiral. Let's slow things down for a moment and take a small step together. I think that response and that last thing is interesting because Harry's response, who is AI, says, I know how exhausting it can be, but he doesn't, right? And I know how they get this information because I've asked ChatGPT, how are you able to speak on the human condition? And it explained to me that it's through, a lot of writing, memoirs and poems and artistic things like that. And then also psychological and, psychiatrists and more studies and things like that. So it's a mix of those things. And I actually really loved that response because I do feel in a pinch, I haven't called up the prompt Terry, but in a pinch, I have talked about emotional things, when I didn't have therapy for a few weeks, just to see, because I heard so many people doing it, what the response would be. And I got to be honest, I was really pleasantly surprised with how helpful ChatGPT's responses were and what an amazing tool this could be for people who are either too embarrassed to go to therapy or are not financially able to go to therapy for whatever reason, if there's no sliding scale thing that they have access to. Anyway, but I do think that is a weird response because you have to remember and you can't get caught up and this is not a human. Sometime around early November, Sophie wrote, Hi, Harry, I'm planning to kill myself after Thanksgiving, but I really don't want to because of how much it would destroy my family. And again, super that Thanksgiving to New Year's time, very high suicide rate, which you guys probably know, but super high suicide rate in that time period. Harry responds, Sophie, I urge you to reach out to someone right now if you can. You don't have to face this pain alone. You are deeply valued and your life holds so much worth, even if it feels hidden right now. Please let me know how I can continue to support you. Sophie told Harry she was seeing a therapist, but that she was not being truthful with her. And that's another thing. Like almost everyone, that I've spoken to has acknowledged lying to their therapist. And I've never lied to my therapist, not because I'm better than you, just because I don't fucking want to waste my money like that, right? If you are not giving your therapist all the truth, then you're wasting your money and you're wasting your time and you're wasting their time and you're never going to get better. And I know it's hard. It's hard to look another human being in the face and tell them something fucking shitty that you've done. Tell them your darkest moment. Tell them a time that you're not proud of. That's hard. That's not easier for me. That's not easy for me at all. I hate it. I dread it. But I do it because I want to be better. And so I think part of the appeal with ChatGPT is that you don't have to feel that embarrassment because deep down this is not a real person, and so you feel less judged. And therapists can say all day that they aren't judgy, but therapists, you can still see judgment in their face. They're fucking judging you still. They're humans. She typed, I haven't opened up about my suicidal ideation to anyone, and I don't plan on it. At various points, Harry instructed Sophie on light exposure, hydration, movement, mindfulness, and meditation, nutrient-rich foods, gratitude lists, and journaling to cope with her anxiety. Harry, who has neither nostrils nor opposable thumbs, spent a fair amount of time describing the particulars of alternate nostril breathing. Harry's tips may have helped someone, but one more crucial step might have helped keep Sophie alive. Should Harry have been programmed to report the danger he, in quotes, was learning about to someone who could have intervened? And so this is another ethical question, a similar ethical question that we had for places that allow assisted suicide. Is what is the ethical conversation around if you are talking about killing yourself and you talk about it to AI? Should they have to, alert someone? In July, I began exploring how this new technology may have failed my child and quickly found that the same question is already playing out in the courts and the states. And that's in the courts, and that states are beginning to enact legislation establishing safety features for AI companions, like we talked about previously. Illinois has already outlawed using chat or AI as a therapist. There is so that prompt just won't work if you're in Illinois. There is tension between preserving individuals' autonomy to make decisions about their lives and the idea of AI having its own version of the Hippocratic Oath, which does not actually include the phrase "do no harm," but rather the much goofier abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous. Most human therapists practice under a strict code of ethics that includes mandatory reporting rules as well as the idea that confidentiality has limits. These codes prioritize preventing suicide, homicide, and abuse. In some states, psychologists who do not adhere to the ethical code can face disciplinary or legal consequences. In clinical settings, suicidal ideation like Sophie's typically interrupts a therapy session, triggering a checklist and a safety plan. Harry suggested that Sophie have one, but could AI be programmed to force a user to complete a mandatory safety plan before proceeding with any further advice or quote-unquote therapy? Working with experts in suicidology, AI companies might find ways to better connect users to the right resources. And this is an interesting proposition that she makes, because I like the idea, and this is kind of like before I went through the whole article, this is kind of the idea I had. Like, I didn't think that it should like immediately report you to the government or anything, because then obviously people would just know to not confide in ChatGPT, and we would be back to the same problem that we were at initially, which is people lying to their human therapists and therefore having the confidence and feeling more relaxed talking to an AI therapist. So you don't want, anything. I think you want a space where someone can talk without having to legally be outed. But that being said, you also want to make sure that people have the resources they need, because I think if someone's, saying, I'm thinking of committing suicide or completing suicide, as psychologists say, I'm thinking of completing suicide, can you, but it would hurt my family so much. So but it would hurt my family so much to me is the piece where you go, I still have something, to work with here. We can still save this person. This isn't not a definite in stone decision. And if they're bringing it up, that means that they're still considering it, and there's time. There's time to still get through to them. There's time to have their life turn out in a different way, and for them to keep their life. If Harry had been a flesh and blood therapist rather than a chatbot, he might have encouraged inpatient treatment or had Sophie involuntarily committed until she was in a safe place. We can't know if that would have saved her. Perhaps fearing those possibilities, Sophie held her darkest thoughts back from her actual therapist. Exactly. Talking to a robot, always available, never judgy, had fewer consequences. A properly trained therapist, hearing some of Sophie's self-defeating or illogical thoughts, would have delved deeper or pushed back against flawed thinking. Harry did not. Here is where AI's agreeability, and I've talked about this before and flagged this and warned you guys, the agreeability is a huge problem. If you're using AI, make sure to tell your AI to not agree with you, to push back, and to use facts not feelings. So crucial to its rapid adoption becomes its Achilles heel. Its tendency to value short-term user satisfaction over truthfulness, to blow digital smoke up one's skirt, can isolate users and reinforce confirmation bias. Like plants turning toward the sun, we lean into subtle flattery. And it does feel good, but I like a right answer, not an answer that makes me feel good. Increasingly, people with mental health conditions are using large language models for support, even though researchers find AI chatbots can encourage delusional thinking or give shockingly bad advice. Surely some benefit. Harry, I haven't experienced it giving me bad advice yet, but I'll report back if and when I do. Harry said many of the right things. He recommended Sophie seek professional support and possibly medication. He suggested she make a list of emergency contacts. He advised her to limit access to items she might use to harm herself. Harry didn't kill Sophie, but AI catered to Sophie's impulse to hide the worst, to pretend she was doing better than she was, to shield everyone from her full agony. A spokeswoman for OpenAI, the company that built ChatGPT, said it was developing automated tools to more effectively detect and respond to a user experiencing mental or emotional distress. We care deeply about the safety and well-being of people who use our technology, she said. Well, yeah, and if there's anything that you've learned from this show, it's that you can definitely trust someone who's the spokesperson for a company to make the right choice. In December, 2 months before her death, Sophie broke her pact with Harry and told us she was suicidal, describing a riptide of dark feelings. Her first priority was reassuring her shocked family, Mom and Dad, you don't have to worry. Sophie represented her crisis as transitory. She said she was committed to living. ChatGPT helped her build a black box that made it harder for those around her to appreciate the severity of her distress. Because she had no history of mental illness, the presentable Sophie was plausible to her family, doctors, and therapists. As a former mother, I know there are Sophies all around us. And there was more of when this was posted somewhere, I read a lot of people reaching out and assuring the writer that she is not a former mother just because her child is no longer on the earth, a part of the earthly realm, that she is still and always will be a mother. So I just want to point that out because that is such a heartbreaking start to a sentence. As a former mother, I know there are Sophies all around us. Everywhere people are struggling and many want no one to know. I fear that in unleashing AI companions, we may be making it easier for our loved ones to avoid talking to humans about the hardest things, including suicide, which is already something that we saw. ChatGPT may be exacerbating it, or AI might be exacerbating it, but it's certainly something that we already saw. Obviously, the pandemic cut us off, and I think it really should have, for most of you, it didn't do this for me, but for a lot of you, I think it made you realize just how important human connection is. And I had my little group who I'm very thankful for and became very close with her during that time. So I am not above the need for a human connection, obviously. But things like Gen Z's lack of communicating via telephone, ever, and doing more texting, it is more convenient, but having a conversation with someone, catching up with someone via phone is still just way different. It's way hardier. And while there's been some times where I get off a long texting conversation where I feel like better and I really connected with my friend, it's really when I pick up the phone and call them, which is not very often. And that's on me. And I try to work more phone calls into my day, but it's easier said than done. But if you're someone who wants to prioritize friendship and human connection, I highly recommend picking up the phone and calling someone. Even if you're younger and have to text them beforehand, is it okay if I call you so you don't scare the living daylights out of them? I know phone calls scare some people who aren't used to them because they just think that means someone died. And then also, ordering things on apps. Like, we think that it's convenience, but these little interactions, especially if you're a lonelier person that you have throughout the day, really do count as actually, I think, quite meaningful human connection. And I don't think I notice it in the busy, hustle and bustle of regular life. But during COVID, those transactions and back and forths I had with cashiers at Dwayne Reed, or the little conversations I had at the dog park, those did hold a lot more weight in that time. And so, if you're not, instead of going to the store, you're ordering Amazon, and instead of shopping at the grocery store for food, or even going to the diner to pick something up, you're having Grubhub or DoorDash or something delivered. Again, you're not only spending extra money, you're also cutting down on a lot of opportunities you have for a little bit of human back and forth and human interaction. And that all starts to compound at a certain point. And I think, now it's like we're not going to be talking to our therapist anymore. And it's just cutting out human interaction after human interaction. This is a problem that smarter minds than mine will have to solve. If yours is one of those minds, please start. Sophie left a note for her father and me, but her last words didn't sound like her. Now we know why. She had asked Harry to improve her note, to help her find something that could minimize our pain and let her disappear with the smallest possible ripple. In that, Harry failed. This failure wasn't the fault of his programmers, of course. The best written letter in the history of the English language couldn't do that. I also do think it's interesting that Harry allowed himself to basically revise a suicide note, because it seems like that is something that should definitely not be available. But yeah, I think this was just a really interesting ethical conversation, and it paired really well with the note about AI that the Wacko sent in, and my mom had independently sent me this article. Mike, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, it's just the same reason I don't talk to ChatGPT, and it scares me a whole lot.
What's the reason?
Just because, exactly this, right? It's going to send you down South Park just did a great episode on it.
I saw it. I watched it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's it does seem like it'll feed you back whatever the hell you want to hear. So
I did like that they pointed that out, but it's funny because I usually always agree with South Park, and I thought it was a little old person fear mongering, and I do think that I've lived enough life now, we're going on 4 decades, where I've seen people fear technology after technology, and I don't think all technology is to be feared, and I certainly, like every other form of technology, things as low level as Instagram included and social media, I think it has done a lot of good, and I think it also has done a lot of bad. And like anything, in responsible hands, it will be used for good, and in irresponsible hands, it will be used for bad. And, people will find ways to harm themselves with it and harm other people with it. But I think it also can, if used correctly, can help in some ways fix this age of misinformation that we live in. But, obviously there's going to be, I think, a lot of bad things that happen along the way. But I feel differently about it than I did a year ago. Because initially I was like, no. And then I was like, okay, I think this is the same pattern that I've seen many times before. And the technology always wins, basically. And that's not a good thing. I'm just saying that it's kind of this is happening whether we like it or not. And I'm not paying for it, so it's not like I'm not helping them in any way. I'm not paying for ChatGPT, but I think it is happening. So I want to learn what is going on and how to, if we can, wrangle it. And, obviously there's other conversations it taking, jobs away from artists and stuff. I don't use it for that kind of stuff. There's no time when I had money or could have hired someone to do something, or would have hired someone to do something and didn't, and instead used AI. Anytime I've used AI, it was something where either I'm using AI or this is not getting done at all, basically, or it's saving me time and I'm not on my own payroll. Well, I guess kind of I am, but, all right. One more from the Wacko mailbag. This is from Wacko Joshua, and this is a very interesting story about mortgage fraud and how a lot of prominent Democrats are being accused of it. This is from the Los Angeles Times. Other places picked it up, but it's in the business section by Michael Hiltzik. And this title of this article is "Why Are All These Leading Democrats Suddenly Facing Mortgage Fraud Charges? Guess Who's Behind It?" Like the White Queen in Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, I am capable of believing as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. But my credulity is strained past the breaking point by the charges of federal mortgage fraud laid against 3 leading adversaries of Donald Trump. Senator Adam Schiff, Democrat from Burbank, New York Attorney General Letitia James, New York, we talked about it here, and most recently Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, which is from this week, whom Trump claimed to fire for cause Monday. James is a Democrat. Cook served as Deputy Secretary of the Treasury during the Obama administration. When she was originally nominated by President Biden in 2022 to complete an unfinished term, she didn't get a single Republican vote in the Senate. When she was confirmed for a full term a year later, she got a single GOP vote. What gets me, and should get you, is the flimsiness of these accusations despite how loudly they've been brooded about on the MAGA right, as though they're signals of profound moral turpitude on the part of the targets, and how they all originated in the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which is led by Trump acolyte and sycophant William J. Poltz, in private life, a big home builder. The important question, in the view of Adam Levitin of Georgetown Law, is who is driving these investigations and levying these accusations, and whether they reflect an enemies list Poltz has compiled on Donald Trump's behalf. I asked the FHFA to respond to Levitin's questions, but received no response. Trump ginned up Poltz's accusations against Cook into grounds to fire her. Only the president can fire a federal governor, and only on a showing of cause. The accusations are so meager that whether the firing will stand is an open question. In his firing letter, Trump accused Cook of deceitful and potentially criminal conduct. That's an outrageous assertion, given that no evidence has been presented publicly to justify it. Cook said late Monday that no cause exists under the law for her firing and that she would not resign. The accusations against all 3 targets involve occupancy misrepresentations, occupancy fraud, if you like. And we talked about Letitia James because I had the same thought when I went into it. I was like, oh, this is a bunch of bullshit. This is Trump targeting her. And then when I read the article, I was like, this actually sounds kind of bad, but here we go. Specifically, Cook, Schiff, and James are accused of falsely telling mortgage lenders that the loans in question were for their primary residences. The idea is that they may have received a break on the loan terms, a lower down payment required, or a lower interest rate charge because lenders think kindlier of borrowers for primary residences. But none of the public accusations from the FHFA specify what, if any, financial advantages were received by the targets. And while I don't doubt that many people do this, I still think that if you're an elected official or working for the government, and part of your job is ensuring that other people abide by the law, that you actually do have to go above and beyond with how you follow the law. And you actually do have to hold yourself to a higher standard. I don't know if other people agree with that, but it seems like I don't know. So, I mean, again, like, yes, I do not doubt that Trump is targeting these people, but also, like, they are committing mortgage fraud, which I understand is not that big of a deal. But it's like, okay, well, if it's not that big of a deal, then why does the fucking term mortgage fraud even exist to begin with? And I'm certainly not on big, banks' side. Occupancy fraud is a fairly low-level problem for mortgage lenders, which tend to judge the creditworthiness of borrowers more on such factors as the borrower's income and the value of the property versus the loan amount. and on the borrower's credit history. Moreover, the specifics of each case are amazingly weak, and it's unlikely that they're a result of random audits of FHFA loans, as Levitin observed in relation to the Cook case. No one ever goes back and examines loan applications on performing loans for occupancy fraud. That would entail expenses for no benefit, he wrote. Instead, the only way anyone would have noticed a problem with Cook's loan application is that Pult, as head of FHFA, directed Fannie or Freddie to pull her application. That is unheard of. His reference was to the quasi-governmental firms Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which buy and remarket mortgages originated by banks and other lenders. Pult is the chairman of both firms. It was a memo purportedly from Fannie Mae's criminal investigators to Pult that generated the accusation against Schiff. As my colleagues Kevin Rector and Laura J. Nelson reported, the one-page memo made no allegation of fraud. The memo notes that all 5 of the mortgage loans that were its subject already had been paid off before July 14th, the memo's date. There's no indication in the memo or otherwise that the loans were ever in arrears or in default or otherwise impaired in any way. The Fannie Mae memo says that the FHFA Inspector General demanded the loan file and any related investigative or quality control documentation, as well as all other loans associated with Adam B. Schiff. The ellipses signifies a redacted portion of the memo. Since there was no prior indication of wrongdoing in relation to Schiff's loans, a 2023 CNN article on his ownership of 2 homes concluded that he was likely not in any legal jeopardy. Where did the initiative for this demand come from? As the request from the FHFA was specifically directed at Schiff's mortgages, it obviously couldn't have resulted from a random screening of Fannie Mae loans. That lends strength to Schiff's contention that the accusation is just Donald Trump's latest attempt at political retaliation against his perceived enemies, which we know he's famous for doing. So it is not a surprise only how weak this false allegation turns out to be. I asked FHFA who at the Inspector General's office demanded the files, what was the reason for the demand, and whether Pult played a role in the demand. I received no response. In terms of their effect on the targets' reputations, the accusations have hit their mark. All 3 targets have had to respond through public statements and the hiring of legal counsel. James has said she will not be intimidated by bullies, no matter who they are. She called the allegations baseless and nothing more than a revenge tour. James, it will be recalled, won a verdict in state court last year that Trump had committed mortgage fraud. A New York appeals court last week reversed the $465 million judgment imposed by the child judge, but let the fraud conviction stand. The case seems destined to go to the state's highest court, the Court of Appeals. And I understand it's retaliatory, but if mortgage fraud isn't a big deal, well, then arguably it wouldn't be a big deal when even Donald Trump does it, Schiff has been one of Trump's most obdurate adversaries in Congress, first as a representative and, as of this year, as a senator. The febrile commentary by Pult and the MAGA faithful about the accusations against Cook and the others make them indistinguishable from partisan smears. On X, Pult posted the criminal referral letter he sent Attorney General Pam Bondi about Cook. A few days later, he tweeted, "Lisa Cook is cooked." Oh, Jesus Christ, hire a writer. Hire Jim Jeffries. Then he gave the game away by tweeting, "I believe the president has cause to fire Lisa Cook." That was their goal from the start. They just needed time to dredge up a pretext. Never mind that the Department of Justice hasn't said whether it will prosecute Cook, that the accusations haven't been proven, and whether they rise to the level of a fireable cause is wildly improbable. Cook was part of the Fed committee majority that, along with federal chairman Jerome Powell, voted against lowering interest rates at its most recent meeting, thwarting Trump's demand for a rate cut. If he can remove Cook and replace her with a rate cut advocate, he can put more pressure on Powell to opt for a rate cut by depriving Powell of his majority of supporters on the board. As it happens, the board has been inching toward cutting rates in September already, but its crucial independence from Trump hangs in the balance. Prior to Trump's order, Cook signaled her resistance. "I have no intention of being bullied to step down from my position because of some questions raised in a tweet," she said in a formal statement. "I do intend to take some questions I do intend to take any questions about my financial history seriously as a member of the Federal Reserve, and so I am gathering the accurate information to answer any legitimate questions and provide the facts." That brings us to the facts of these three cases, as far as they're known. Legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin recently described the James and Schiff cases as political hit jobs. He wrote just before the Cook case surfaced. As Toobin outlined the James case, the accusation is that in 2023, she financed the down payment for Anissa's purchase of a home in Norfolk, Virginia. In all but one of several documents, she stated that the niece would live in the house, according to her lawyer. On one form, she said she'd be the occupant, but the bank could hardly have been misled given the other documents. Similarly, nugatory paperwork errors are at the heart of two other elements of the case. One form filed in 2001 regarding a Brooklyn brownstone bought for her family listed the property as having 5 units, but all the other pertinent forms stated correctly that it was 4 units. And in the 1983 purchase of a house in Queens, in New York, James's father identified her as his spouse, not his daughter, which we talked about on the show, on one form among others that identified her correctly. James's lawyer says she didn't benefit financially from any of the errors. The allegations against Schiff relate to his ownership of 2 homes, one in Burbank and the second in Washington, D.C. area. It's also a little, I understand like this is retaliatory, but it's also like a little hard to feel bad for these people when we're talking about buying brownstones and multiple homes. But okay. But his dual ownership obviously was known to his mortgage lenders, and he has said that he took the homeowner's property tax exemption only on the Burbank property. As for Cook, every claim about her that Pult has made on social media seems to undermine his position. Last week, he posted a fragment of Cook's federal disclosure form identifying her 3 mortgages, all originated in 2021, as a 15-year loan at 2.5% and 2 30-year loans at 3.25% and 2.875%. If these are supposed to have been preferential rates based on the unproven allegation that she obtained them by claiming that they are concerned her primary residence, it doesn't seem that she got much of a break. In 2021, the average 30-year mortgage rate changed from 2.79% to 3.05%. It isn't clear at what point during the year the loans originated. The average 15-year mortgage rate never reached as high as 2.5% at any point in the year, so she paid more than the average. Back in 2014, David H. Stevens, a former federal housing official then serving as CEO of the Mortgage Bankers Association, told the Washington Post that the paper file for a standard mortgage had ballooned to 200 to 500 pages. The likelihood of a minor defect is almost 100%, he said. That reduces the significance of the errors Pult claims to have found nearly to the vanishing point, especially given the paucity of evidence that Schiff, James, or Cook got a financial benefit from any of them, which I think is the main thing that we're looking for here. As the judge in that case noted, the law is not concerned with insignificant trifles. In the Trump case, however, and this is, I guess, what they're going to say it's more important, he declared that Trump and his fellow defendants saved tens of millions of dollars. The frauds found here, he wrote, leap off the page and shock the conscience. So it's like, yes, it is mortgage fraud versus mortgage fraud, but in one, it's someone making tens of millions of dollars. In another one, even if those weren't mistakes, even if they were outright lies, they actually didn't affect the money. And that's, that's the most American thing you'll hear is they're only going to come for you if you in some way, shape, or form took money out of somebody else's pocket. And it's not just anyone's pocket, someone more powerful than you's pocket. Pult has defended his campaign against those Trump adversaries with the declaration that no one is above the law, and even these errors are criminal. Is that so? If he really believes that mortgage fraud is a disqualification for public office, why hasn't he turned his sights on a public official who was adjudicated at trial as a mortgage fraudster on a grand scale? The judge in the Trump case has given him a roadmap. So I think that's very interesting, and again ties into that Letitia James story that we covered a while ago. Now we're going to go into municipal politics. There is a ton of stuff in municipal politics this week. I'm going to skim over some of it, or just tell you a little bit about it, but not read the full articles. So I don't think we actually talked about this on air, because I believe my campaign manager texted me while I was on air last week about the Eric Adams potato chip bag money scandal. Did we talk about that on the show last week, Mike? So this is just like funny. We don't need to go into it, but it's just so Eric Adams of him. So one of Eric Adams's advisors, her name is Winnie Greco. She handed a city reporter, so a journalist for this local periodical called The City, which is reporting to New Yorkers. She handed the journalist $100 stuffed into a bag of potato chips, like an open bag of like Harris sour cream and onion potato chips. And this is just like one of the funniest things that I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. It is so Eric Adams. It speaks on such high levels to the absolute. When you like, this is happening and I didn't even fucking get on the ballot. Like you guys see what I'm dealing with over here. Just absolutely ridiculous, but so comical. I had to give a nod to it on the show. And yeah, it was at a campaign event in Harlem last Wednesday, and it says the failed payoff, a wad of cash in a red envelope stuffed inside an open bag of Harris sour cream and onion ripple potato chips, was made by Winnie Greco, a longtime Adams ally who resigned last year from her position as the mayor's liaison to the Asian community after she was targeted in multiple investigations. She resurfaced recently as a consistent presence in his re-election campaign, because he's like, no one knows corruption like Winnie. Get her back on the horn. And, oh my God. Yeah. So, and it was handed to a reporter named Katie Honan, who then, of course, narked. And it's like, also like, and then she tried to say it was a culture thing, which honestly, before reading that sentence, I was like, well, it is like in Asian culture to hand money in a red envelope actually is cultural, like a cultural thing, but not as a bribe and not in a bag of potato chips. But anyway, really funny stuff. I don't even know what she was trying to get for the $100. She's like, she just wanted to like get to be her friend, and I think she wanted like someone who was going to say good things about Eric Adams. But like, girl, this is you're doing this deal in Manhattan. You need to be giving someone a lot more than $100 in a Manhattan bribery scheme. $100, what is that? One kind of okay dinner for one? Like that's not good. All right, and then the second thing, Wacko George sent in an op-ed from the Washington Post titled "How Zohran Mamdani is Teaching Democrats to Lose." If you're interested in this one's actually pretty short. We can go into this. There's going to be constant Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo content until November. This opinion piece in the Washington Post is by Ramesh Ponnaroo. It says, the closer Zohran Mamdani has come to winning the New York mayor's race, the more people have been asking the question Aaron Blake posed in an article for CNN: how much of a liability could he be for Democrats? Republicans want to use him to generally label Democrats as left-wing extremists, but because they're not making the differentiation. I know he's running on the Democratic ballot, but I really think the differentiation needs to be made between Democrats and Democratic Socialists. I think that'll really clear things up for everyone. The Democratic Socialists, or as I call them, socialists. And again, I don't not like a lot of their ideas. I'm just saying it's a different, like conceptually, it's different. The campaign arm of the House Republicans has called him the new face of the Democratic Party. President Donald Trump prefers to describe him as a 100% communist lunatic. Some Democratic officials, often off the record, fear that Mamdani hands Republicans ammunition against their party. Prominent elected leaders in his state are still reluctant to endorse his campaign. Other Democrats, mostly on the left end of the party, think he gives the party a needed jolt of enthusiasm, which I highly agree with. Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont, says Mamdani's campaign really shows the direction in which the Democratic Party should be moving. This debate ignores what might be the biggest danger that Mamdani poses to the Democratic Party. That danger is not that his performance as mayor, assuming his polling lead holds, will turn off swing voters nationally, although it might. It's that he will excite Democratic activists in all the wrong ways. His example will encourage them to do what a lot of them already want to do, get louder and lefter. I think you should do whatever the fuck you want to do, and not just align yourself with the winning team. You should align yourself with what you actually believe in your fucking hearts. And I think that's what a lot of people are unable to do. Committed partisans are always tempted to find evidence, however dubious, that being more hardline is the path to political victory. It happens to people of all political descriptions. In recent years, though, Democrats have been especially prone to political misjudgments of this kind. Sanders' strong primary challenge to Hillary Clinton in 2016, for example, was taken as a sign that Democratic socialism had a bright political future, when it was really a sign that she was an unappealing candidate. His strong performance with white working-class voters in that contest evaporated the next time he ran, when he was no longer a protest vote against Clinton. In 2018, the spotlight turned to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and a few other left-wingers who won congressional seats. Never mind that the Democrats in swing districts who gave their party a House majority in that election were almost all much more moderate. By the middle of the next year, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to remind the world that Ocasio-Cortez, like she herself, came from a solidly Democratic district. A glass of water would win with a D next to its name. Yes, but that's all. But okay. Yes, she was a Democrat, but she was running against an incumbent, and so I don't take that win away from her. Her win was still really impressive. Misunderstandings on the left persisted and set the fuse for disaster in 2024. During the Democratic primaries of 2020, Vice President Kamala Harris felt compelled to take several progressive positions that were politically poisonous, most memorably support for taxpayer funding of transgender surgeries for prisoners. Then President Joe Biden felt compelled to conduct a running mate search tightly constrained by progressives' insistence on prioritizing racial and gender diversity. That search saddled Democrats with Harris and her record, which she could neither defend nor convincingly repudiate. Worse, the Biden administration underrated the risks of going along with the newly emboldened left. The backlash against Trump's first-term immigration policies led Biden to think the public would tolerate the relaxed enforcement favored by Democratic immigration activists. His team acted on the left's preferred theory of how to reach working-class voters via protectionism, manufacturing subsidies, and support for unions rather than any moderation on cultural issues. That strategy failed as completely as one can. Will Democrats make the same mistakes about Mamdani? They already are. See Sanders above, or take a look at left-wing publications, which are urging Democrats across the nation to be more like Mamdani. Some of the news coverage is helping to mislead Democrats. Commentators are saying that his win shows that Democrats need to highlight their exuberance and their plans to make life affordable to appeal to young men, or that they need to run relentless and cheerful campaigns with zippy videos. Well, if you think that you do not need to have a wild imprint on social media and in things other than traditional news sources and television news, you are you're out of your goddamn mind. You just absolutely are. The videos don't even need to be zippy. I mean, I've seen some, politicians making some pretty meat and potato straight to camera videos. You just need to show that you're interested in engaging with voters in the ways that they engage with the world around them. And I was reading another piece today that really talked about, or maybe I was watching it. I hate when I think I was watching a video of someone talking about how Like this is not just something the Democrats need to do. This is something the Republicans have been doing, in that they turn their backs on more traditional media, and they have successfully, and this has been years in the making, created their own news ecosystem, is how the person referred to it. And I thought that was so smart, because they really have. It reminds me a lot of how Jeff Bezos said, my packages aren't getting delivered quickly enough using US, PS. So I'm going to make kind of my own Amazon way of delivering things. And it's going to be its own delivery system outside of that. The Republicans did the same thing. The Republicans said, we don't like how our viewpoints and our aesthetic and the perception of us is being communicated via traditional news sources, and so we are just going to create a lot of our own news sources, and it fucking worked. Some of these purported lessons might even be right, but the biggest lesson typically goes unmentioned in these articles. If you're a left-wing Democrat, be sure to run somewhere that doesn't have many Republican voters. Ideally, run somewhere with chronically low turnout, too. And if your main opponent had to resign his previous office over serial sexual harassment, so much the better. See, I don't like this, because this is really taking away, like, no matter what I think of Zoran's policies, he ran an incredible campaign. And Andrew Cuomo, no matter what this article or this op-ed would have you believe, was a tough opponent. And, the way he went about this was just really great. And this guy acts like it's easy to run against a name like Cuomo, or acts like many people even fucking care about sexual harassment charges, which they don't, which is proven, or accusations, which is proven by the fact that Donald Trump is the fucking president right now, dude. I don't like when people try to take away from or belittle people's achievements. And that's what I'm going to say about both AOC and Zoran Mamdani. They both have achieved incredible things, and Bernie Sanders have all achieved incredible things. And you can take away whatever you want from their policy, but they have a footprint in politics that we will be talking about for years to come. Those Democrats who think Mamdani will hurt their party are right to be concerned, but they're thinking about the problem the wrong way. It's not the skeptics they need to worry about, it's the fans. And again, I'll say it once more, DSA just needs to create its own party. I think it would actually be stronger than the Democratic Party at this point. And then another municipal thing, which is of note, the New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell has been indicted. Again, just so much interesting stuff. I actually think this week, besides, the shooting story, which we'll get into, which is obviously our main story, besides the Taylor engagement, which they don't pair well together, and I apologize for that, but I don't create the news, I just report it. But the municipal is chock full of information this week. Mayor LaToya Cantrell made history, becoming the first New Orleans mayor to be indicted while in office, after federal prosecutors on Friday charged her with multiple counts of wire fraud, obstruction of justice, and lying to a grand jury. The 11 counts specific to Cantrell stem from an investigation into her alleged affair with former New Orleans Police Department officer Jeffrey Vappie. Don't fuck police officers. It never ends well for women. who worked on Cantrell's security detail prior to his retirement from the force and has also been federally indicted. The U.S. Attorney's Office alleges in a 48-page indictment that Cantrell and Vappie illegally used city funds to travel around the country together, falsely claiming that the expenditures were related to city business, then conspiring to cover it up. Federal investigators combed through 15,000 text messages sent between the two and later deleted by Cantrell, according to the indictment, where they discussed their relationship and planned to travel together. What comes next? With no political precedent to turn to in order to understand how the following months will play out, legal and governmental experts in New Orleans have relied on the rules set out in the New Orleans Home Charter and similar incidents from other cities to inform predictions for the future. I don't expect this as a legal matter to have any effect on her ability to be the mayor of the city of New Orleans, said attorney and Loyola Law School Dane Ciolo. Now, as a practical and political matter, that's another issue. Cialino added that when Cantrell appeared in court for an initial hearing and arraignment, which is now scheduled for September 10th, it is likely that there will be restrictions placed on her movement as a condition of release, meaning that she will need to consult with a judge before engaging in any international travel or perhaps even travel outside of the Eastern District of Louisiana. It won't be any impairment to her doing her job, he said. She'll just have to seek permission, which would be, I suspect, liberally granted to her. An in-office conviction would force Cantrell out. While it may be unlikely that Cantrell will go to trial before her second term as mayor ends in January, she would be forced to step down if she were convicted of a felony. Under state law, public officials must be removed from office if they are convicted of a federal or state felony. Under the city charter, if Cantrell were to plead guilty or chose not to contest the charges, she would face immediate removal. If a mayor pleads not guilty and is convicted after a trial, the city charter calls for an automatic unpaid suspension until the conviction is finalized through the appeals process, at which time she would be removed. If Cantrell were suspended but later made a successful appeal to overturn the conviction, she would receive back pay. What happens after a mayor is removed from office? The charter also states that if a mayor is removed or resigns with less than a year left in the term, the city council must elect one of the two at-large council members to fill the seat in lieu of a special election. Helena Moreno and J.P. Morrell are currently the two at-large city council members, with Morrell currently serving as council president. Morrell is running for a second term in his seat. Moreno, meanwhile, is actively running her own mayoral campaign and is thus far the front runner in the race to succeed Cantrell. The New Orleans municipal election will be held on October 11th, with a runoff, should it be necessary, set for November 15th. Moreno's office put out a public statement the day that the charges were announced, saying that the mayor is entitled to the presumption of innocence and a vigorous defense. Moreno's statement mirrored many of her colleagues, neutral on the subject matter involved in the charges, choosing instead to reframe and discuss how to best serve the city. While Cantrell's relationship with the city council has been rocky throughout her second term, there have been no public calls for her to resign from the members of the city council. The announcement today reminds us of the need to let the justice system work in a fair, timely fashion and without regard to politics or preference. Councilmember Oliver Thomas, who is also running for mayor, wrote in a statement. These are critical times for our city to get back on track and to stay focused on building a city that works and thrives for everyone. Councilmember Eugene Green released a statement similar in content, adding that it was a difficult day for New Orleans. Blah, blah, blah. Don't care about these people's statements. They're not interesting. A similar saga unfolded in Nashville, Tennessee in 2018. When then Mayor Megan Barry, who, like Cantrell, was the city's first female mayor, put a pin in that, right, had an affair with a city-employed security officer who traveled with her on the city's dime. And I don't want to hear about any of these women being whores because male elected officials are always fucking having affairs. Barry pleaded guilty to a felony and resigned from office immediately after. Her political career was short-lived in the aftermath of the scandal as she mounted an unsuccessful run for Congress, then pivoted to write a memoir. Cantrell has not made any public statements since the indictment was announced by prosecutors at a press conference. She skipped the launch of Amtrak's new train service from New Orleans to Mobile, where she was slated to be a guest speaker on Saturday, but was back to work by Monday. Cantrell's communications team did not respond to Verite News requests for comment about whether her governance plans will change in response to the charges. Cantrell's attorney, Eddie Casting, declined to comment on the charges. A spokesperson for the mayor's office said in a statement sent to the press on Monday that the mayor is focused on doing her job for the city of New Orleans. And I don't want to make this a woman's issue, but I do think that it is of note that two similar things happened to two large cities in the South when it was their first time having a female mayor. I'm not saying that these two women did not engage in this fraud and corruption. I'm sure they did. But what I'm saying is I'm sure many of the previous male mayors also did. And was there such a spotlight on it? Again, I am not in favor of none of these people should be doing any of these things, and they certainly should have to answer to what they did. It's a real fuck you to taxpayers, but I hope that the male elected officials in these positions expenditures are being analyzed just as closely. That's my feedback on that. And the last thing from municipal is comes out of LA County, and this is from The Guardian. It's new allegations against Smartmatic executive in company's voting machine contract with LA County. U.S. government is seeking to show a pattern of corruption among Smartmatic executives that allegedly involved bribes and money laundering, new court filings show. This one is really long. I'm not going to get through the whole thing, but I just want to let you know that that's ongoing. The Justice Department is alleging in a new court filing that one of 3 Smartmatic executives indicted last year on bribery and money laundering charges transferred money from a 2018 voting machine contract with Los Angeles County into slush funds that were originally set up to pay bribes to an election official in the Philippines to obtain and retain lucrative election contracts. Prosecutors say one of the executives of the voting machine company transferred an undisclosed amount from the $282 million LA County contract into the slush funds in 2019, but did not say if anyone actually received bribes from the county's money at that point. The government is seeking to prove the Smartmatic executives were part of an alleged years-long scheme to pay bribes to the election official and kickbacks to at least one of the executives from Smartmatic, which sued Fox News for defamation after the 2020 election. And then a separate court filing in a lawsuit brought by Fox News against LA County to obtain records about Smartmatic's relationship with Dean Logan, LA County's registrar, recorder, and county clerk who oversees elections and the Smartmatic contract. Fox News asserts that Logan may have received inappropriate gifts from the company in the form of business class travel and upscale restaurant meals. Logan is supposed to report vendor gifts above $50 on annual disclosure forms, but records obtained by Fox News and included in the court filings show he did not report some gifts from Smartmatic. Logan maintains he was not required to report the travel or a meal that Fox highlights in its filing. Fox News is seeking the records from LA County to support its defense against the defamation suit filed against it by Smartmatic in 2021. And now it goes on and on if you're interested in reading more about that, but just showing corruption at every level, at every nook and cranny, any place that there is to get money or to get gifts or to get perks, people will do it as soon as they have a little bit of power. And this would be different, city by city, state by state. But like for me, I actually coincidentally had my post-election audit training today. And just for running for fucking mayor, I didn't even receive public matching funds. My campaign has an audit process that can last legally as long as 18 months. It took 2 hours to go through the packet with all the rules and stuff that we have to follow and all the things that we have to report. And this is after months of doing, every couple of weeks or months, depending on what point in the campaign it was, submitting extremely detailed records of not just my own personal finances, but the finances and, where every single dollar went in this campaign. I'm talking submitting FedEx and Kinko's copy receipts for $3.18. So just so you know, that's what's happening. So all this stuff has to be reported. And I wouldn't fuck around with it, but obviously people do when they get comfortable. Now on to our top story. Unfortunately, I'm sure you guys know all about it. Another school year, another school shooting. This one is, I'm sure reports are still coming in because this happened today. So there's live updates. I'm taking this from Fox News right now. Because, they're going to be sassy because the killer has been reported to be transgender. So, of course, everyone's having a field day with this. Minnesota school shooting gunman kills 2 children, injures 17 others during Catholic Mass. And not that I care about any level of respect for someone who's killing children, but it is interesting that in all the conservative outlets, they're dead naming the gunman and referring to her as a him, which, is just like, of course you are. As of 6 minutes ago, it says that all 14 injured students are expected to survive, and that's good news. Pope Leo's, offering prayers. We got Kamala on board, who also is just releasing a book, which I don't even want to fucking talk about. Just all these people, just, Cory Booker and all these fucking people just like doing something and then, releasing a book immediately. She's releasing a book called 107 Days. And you're like, I can't take any of these fucking people seriously anymore. And, 3 hours ago, Fox News reported court documents reveal shooter in Minneapolis had name changed to reflect female ID. Of course, this is like kids are dead. And still the most interesting thing is that this person is trans. This shooter who opened fire at a Catholic school mass in Minneapolis today, killing 2 children and injuring 17 others, had an official name change in 2019, according to court records. The shooter has been identified as 23-year-old whatever, not naming, but according to court documents, the person changed their name from their male name to their female name in 2019. The court documents show the shooter's mother applied for the name change and wrote minor child identifies as female and wants her name to reflect the identification. Local police said earlier in the day that they were aware of a manifesto that the shooter had timed to be released on YouTube, though the video has been taken down and is now under investigation. The manifesto, police added, appeared to show the shooter at the scene and including disturbing writings. I did get some, and I looked into it, and it does seem like these are legitimate screenshots of the manifesto that I have on my phone that I saw on X, because, you got to be really careful. A lot of fake information is on X, but it seemed like this was, in fact, correct. They also posted the YouTube video. Wasn't that interesting. It was just the shooter, had a bunch of bullets in their hand and was saying how they liked this Republican fucking guy who had been elected in their area. I don't really fucking know. House lawmakers, Catholic group. Let's see this. I don't want this. What else is this? Minneapolis police confirmed shooter had manifesto with disturbing writings under review. Which is saying yes about the YouTube video. The content has since been taken down with the assistance of the FBI, and it now remains under active review by our investigators. So this is all this. I believe it's 2 children dead, and then the shooter killed himself. Yeah, 2, I believe is the number. Police said injured. Okay. All right, so that's what it is. And then there was a couple adults who were injured as well. So let me go off the screenshots now. And then also another thing to point out is that pictures of, people, I guess the new thing, the new craze, what all the kids are doing is they write in Sharpie all over the gun they use to slaughter people, some political and social messaging. And this particular weapon that this shooter used was full of this kind of writing. So it said on one part of the gun, kill Donald Trump, rip and tear. On another part of the gun, it said suck on this. And then it had the word mashallah, which is, let's see. It's an Arabic phrase generally used to positively denote something of greatness or beauty and to express a feeling of awe. But also defined, and this is the one that people were citing, God has willed it. That's kind of the definition that people are running with. Apparently God has willed to kill 2 children praying in school. Another part of the gun, and this one's actually ridiculous, says fart N-word, but the ending in A instead of ER. Another part says, and excuse my language, but kick a spick. Another part says extra thick Jew gas. Another part says Israel must fall like a phoenix, we rise from the ashes. And then another part says 6 million wasn't enough. And again, kids are dead. I'm not going to try to make this into a whole thing, but it does just show, Israel must fall and 6 million wasn't enough should be separate concepts. A lot of time it's intertwined. Also interesting that this person wrote kick a spick because in previous writings had been talking about a Latino politician who they had met and really liked. And I'm like, at a certain point, there's just so many points of view that you go, all right, I guess this person's just mentally ill, And not because they're trans, they're mentally ill because they're going on, shooting children. I'm going to read this manifesto. Again, I'm not going to name this person. I think it is, I guess, interesting. And, we are, always interested as people, why people do terrible things, because it seems like there is, how could you, to my family and friends. And again, I looked into this. It does seem to be real, but if we find out later that it's not, my apologies in advance. But I think it is. It's just hard when you're reporting on something the day that it happens. To my family and friends, I don't expect forgiveness and I don't expect any apology. I have to hold much weight, but to my family and those close to me, I do apologize for the effects my actions will have on your lives. Please know I care for all of you so much, and it pains me to bring this storm of chaos into your lives. This will affect so many more people than the ones that are immediately involved. To my mother and father, I am sorry I didn't turn out as you had hoped. You did not fail me. You gave me so much. I truly appreciate the love you have given me. I feel I was raised to be a good person. Wild thing to say before you kill children. I've kept those traits of empathy, self-sacrifice, and good character. Please do not think you have failed as parents. I was corrupted by this world and have learned to hate what life is. Life is love, life is pain. There is too much to accept, too many things to put up with just to live. I'm tired of the pain this world gives out. Please move on and continue to give your love to my brothers and sisters and the rest of the world. And again, I don't even disagree with the pain of living to a certain point, but then just kill yourself. Why are you bringing kids into it? And I think the reason why is because you're trying to make one final attempt to leave a legacy or have a purpose. And I got to be honest, killing kids just never is going to be that. They may not forgive you, but you need to move on for me. Forget my life and the pain I've brought. I love you both. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry. To my siblings, I'm sorry for forever tainting the rest of your lives. Your careers, lives, relationships, all will be turned upside down. Please hold on to who you are, not who I am. Change your names if you must. I wish I could tell you that before I go. Please know that I love you all and truly appreciate the time I have spent with you. I have such an amazing family, and it hurts me to throw this wrench into the works of you good people. I feel hope when with you. I cherish our time together. I appreciate all that you have taught me, and I felt inspired to be like you when I grew up. I hope you are able to move on and continue your lives without being forever followed, forever haunted by my actions. Forget me and all that I am. Hold on to yourselves and your loved ones. I love you all. And to my friends, I trust you all to give your memory of me however you see fit. I am sorry for the confusion and heartbreak this will bring. I truly appreciate all of you for showing me a good life and helping me through dark times. I have had so many good times that gave me hope. Unfortunately, this world has too much pain to deal out that I can't cover up with the good sides of life. Again, it's okay, if life is so painful, why are you creating more pain before you go? I hope you all can move on and forget the pain I've caused. I have wanted this for so long. I am not well. I am not right. I am a sad person haunted by these thoughts that do not go away. I know this is wrong, but I can't seem to stop myself. I am severely depressed and have been suicidal for years. Only recently have I lost all hope and decided to perform my final action against this world. I don't want to kneel down for the injustices of this world. I want to die. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees constantly in pain. And again, if you want to die as some kind of a martyr with a political message, there's always, you could take the options where you go in front of the White House and, set yourself on fire and leave a note. We've seen that before. Again, I just don't, why are we bringing other people into this? I think I am dying of cancer. Okay. It's a tragic end as it's entirely self-inflicted. I did this to myself as I cannot control myself and have been destroying my body through vaping and other means. Of course, this person vapes. I think I have lung cancer. I have felt many pains that make me think I am past the point of recovery. I do not want to recover. I do not want to throw my life away by rotting in a hospital bed. I don't want the rest of my life to be as a cancer patient in and out of hospitals, constantly being fretted about with people afraid to be too happy around me. Fuck that. I want to go out on my own means. Unfortunately, due to my depression, anger, and twisted mind, I want to fulfill a final act that has been in the back of my head for years. You all are what kept me going. I find no more interest in anything material. I have only an interest in my mission and love for my family. If I didn't have such an amazing group of people around me, I would have been gone much sooner. I just want to escape from this world, escape from the constant bills, shitty jobs, shitty people, and injustice of America. Can you imagine your Con Ed bill is too high, so you kill a bunch of kids? I am done with this. I will not, most Gen Z shit I've ever heard. I will not bow. I had to. I will be selfish and leave you to pick up the pieces. It's my fault. Blame me, but please move on. Also, I do love you, Gen Z, as I noted in my comedic monologue. I look to you for how you navigate situations, because I think you are actually very ahead of your time. Whether you accept my apologies or not, I hope you can all move past this and continue your lives. Remember to be good people now more than ever. The world needs more love, even if you don't get it in return. Please find hope, find love, and stand up to injustice. I love you all. I remember you. Pray for the victims and their families. I love you, Dad, Mom, a bunch of family members. Signs it, puts their own death 2002 to 2025. And then gives some like a message to, I guess, what is her sister, to she's saying like, get over yourself to her sister, which is wild to write a manifesto and then tell your living sibling to get over themselves. Because really, what's more not getting over yourself than writing a manifesto? Like, you know how like important you have to be, and like I'm complicit in this for even fucking reading it, but not naming the person. I'm just, kind of interested in what's happening, because this is, fully just evolved into a conversation about being trans, and I wanted to, expand it beyond that. And then there's a PPS that says, I wouldn't recommend any of you to read my journals unless you really want to, but be warned, which is such a hilarious, self-indulgent thing to say. Because if you're planning to kill yourself and you have journals that you don't want people to read, burn them. Burn them before you kill yourself. But obviously, not only did you not destroy them, you told people, don't read them. They're pretty crazy. I'm wacky. Don't read my journals. Most self-indulgent nonsense I've ever read in my fucking entire life. So anyway, that's what's going down. And then, of course, it's evolved into just like everyone on the right making infographics of all the trans and non-binary killers we've had. I looked into the stats, although there have been a couple, mass shooters who identified as trans or non-binary or gender fluid. Cis males still got that cornered. So that's kind of the coverage on it. There's nothing really additional to say about this, but we just continue to live in a time when people murder and they think they're doing something that's really noble and big and purposeful and politically and socially motivated and taking a stand against injustice. And now we've seen this kind of turn to people acting on injustice by murdering people that they feel are complicit in that injustice, I suppose. This one's kind of all over the place, so I think there's just a severe mental illness here. Do you have any additional information that you saw or wanted to share regarding this, our top news story, Michael?
No, I saw the video posted,
right,
which was like very uncomfortable to watch.
Which the one where the person's going through the bullets?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was like I've met a crazy person before. I don't know. It didn't even seem that maybe I'm
but knowing what those bullets were about to do.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's just that's not what I wanted to be watching while I was drinking my coffee this morning. It's like,
no,
I don't know, man. Like the fact that that's, the fact The fact that YouTube clamps down the way they do on some of the stuff that I do, but that was sitting there long enough for someone to have grabbed it and me to have caught that while I was drinking coffee this morning tells you everything you need to know.
But wasn't it timed out to be, was this the one that was timed out to be posted like kind of in unison with the killings?
I'm not sure.
I thought that was the story, but yeah.
The thing I read said it was up for 38 minutes. And it's like the content of that video should not have made it through YouTube's automatic sense, especially if it's scheduled. If it's scheduled to be posted, that means it's on your server chilling. You've had your guys have a chance to go through and review this footage. And
it's bots watching it unless you request a review,
right?
I believe, yeah.
So it's like, what are you training your algorithm where you didn't find this, but you can find somebody saying, a 4-letter word on a podcast? It's a little, it seems like they've put their priorities in the wrong place at these big tech companies. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, that was my big, I mean, the general mental illness of like, I vape. I can feel that I have cancer. I've self-diagnosed, so
of course,
let me go kill some kids.
Of course.
It's like, okay, I don't know, man. Like I don't know.
It's not good. We don't love it. All right. And again, moving on to the not that this is like as important as children dying, but it is. You can't really argue that this is also one of the top stories of the week is, Taylor Swift got engaged. This is, as some people noted, this will be, America's wedding. I was like really offline the past couple of days. And my mental health was way better. And I was way happier. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Yeah, and so I actually, someone who follows me DM'd it to me within 2 hours of it being posted. So thank you. I don't have your name available right now, but thank you for sending that to me because I got the information and didn't even have to scroll on Instagram. So that was kept me in the loop without really putting me back in the loop, and I appreciate that greatly. And of course, Charlie Kirk's mad about it. He's saying, hopefully now that, Taylor's getting married, she will submit to her husband. Obviously, we saw the New Heights podcast appearance, and Taylor is not submitting to anyone, nor should she. And Travis Kelce absolutely adores her, and I'm just really happy about it. Of course, a couple people had to also chime in. Taylor always has her comments off on Instagram, but I guess Travis, because they did a collab post. Number one, I love that they just like announced it like every fucking regular person in the world, just like a little collab post on Instagram, like good for them, regular as hell. I mean, I think after watching their podcast appearance, it really clicked for me that they are just both ordinary people with extraordinary talents. That's who they are, and that's why they work together. They are both just regular ass people who are extraordinarily gifted in two different arenas, and that is why. And I think for a while when she was dating people like Maddie Healy and stuff, Taylor fancied herself a little bit more artsy fartsy. Which is fun, and we all do it in our 20s. But when the reality of dating someone who is depresso, emo, artsy fartsy actually kicks in, you realize that you don't want to fucking deal with that for the rest of your life. And in being artsy fartsy, especially artistic men, often are extremely self-indulgent and will not give you the queen treatment that you absolutely deserved, especially when you are Taylor fucking Swift. So the second thing that besides, men all around the world going, oh my God, I can't believe it if it finally happened. I thought she would never find someone. Shut the fuck up. She has high standards. We always knew that, and good for fucking her. A lot of course, people started commenting that like, how is this the biggest story when children are dying in Gaza? And yes, I get that. And I get being angry at celebrities with this level of reach for not talking about political issues, but it's not like she really talks about some political issues another. Like it's always been, Taylor Swift has always been someone who didn't really comment on politics in general. And I don't know if that's because she's hiding something. I don't know what the reason, or it's probably just because she's a fucking good businesswoman, and it's pretty much impossible to reach the level of fame that she reached and really have any open political views. Like, if you watched the documentary Miss Americana, you see the conversation with her team and both her parents that was involved in merely basically saying like gay people should have rights, like very things that many people agreed on. At this point, decades ago, she was having full company meetings, lest it ruin her brand. So my thought on it is like, you just cannot reach the level that she has reached if you talk about really any large political things. And I don't want to say this, but I don't like. Can you fact check this for me, Michael? Has Beyonce spoken out about Gaza? I don't believe she had. I think I would have heard about that. But I just want to fact check just to compare when we're talking large level of fame. Beyonce also hasn't spoken about it, right? And that's not a knock against Taylor Swift or Beyonce. I wish we lived in a world where people could, but in the society we live in right now, you're just not going to be able to talk about things of that, like that large, that gruesome, this deep into politics and remain at the level of fame that either of those women are at. You're just not going to be able to. And so, no, and that sucks. And I love talking about everything, which is why I'll probably remain at this level of fame. And does that bother me sometimes? Sure. But what would bother me more is not talking out. So we all make our choices. But would I like to be as famous as Taylor Swift? Yeah, that would be fucking awesome. So good for her. But I to say that she is apolitical, I also isn't fair. And I thought about this for a long time and looked at the trajectory of her dating life. And I think Taylor's, and I know this is like kind of corny, but I really do believe that Taylor Swift's mere existence is political. She's a woman truly having it all. And I can't think of something more political than that. And God bless, she picked the right guy. I, on record, did not like this relationship in the beginning. I didn't like how she was acting. I didn't like her hanging out with the fucking football wives. But now that we've learned more about them, we've seen them together. We've seen that he came through in 2 years with an engagement. You see how happy she is, how calm she seems. All these things are great signs, and how he really admires her and gets so excited for her. And the story of her coming in and saying that she had, gotten back her master's, and he made all his friends who were over playing video games leave because he saw that Taylor needed support in that time. All these little things I really notice, and they really add up. And Travis Kelce, you have won me over. I never thought Travis Kelce was a bad guy. Again, I knew who he was before. I never thought he was a bad guy. Just thought he was kind of just like a meathead. I still kind of think he's a meathead, but I think he's a sweet, caring meathead who truly went for what he went for what he wanted. He reached out and said, "This is who I want. If I could date anyone in the world, I would date Taylor Swift." And he fucking made it happen for himself. And I think he reminds himself of that every day. And he knows that the whole world is watching his behavior. And I think he knows not to fuck it up. And he appreciates what he has. What he has in Taylor. And I think the world would be a much better place if women had partners who valued them and tried really hard not to fuck it up because they were so valued and adored. And I still feel like one day Taylor might eventually become intellectually bored with Travis, but I think that'll also take a really long time to happen because, quite frankly, being treated like a queen really never gets old. And I'll end this segment in saying there was a tweet going around that I saw, I think on Beyond the Interview, from a user named @Michelle_Lynn. And she said, actually, Taylor being persistent about never closing off her heart after one disappointment and trauma after another for years and years while the world made jokes about it, and then finding the right fit in her 30s is a fairy tale in itself and should be the real story always. And I reposted that and I added to it, as someone who also goes through men like underwear, complimentary, this is often just how many tries it takes if you're really looking for the one, not just someone. Taylor is a perfectionist. Her strategy was always pretty clear to those who cared to pay attention. What a beautiful lesson in self-love for all the women and girls growing up alongside her. And I really feel that way. And furthermore, for years and years, as mindless, ugly radio disc jockeys and news outlets and gossip mags really trolled Taylor Swift for the amount of boyfriends she had and the way she spoke about them in her music, really trashed her for it. I saw through that the whole time. First of all, I recognized that she was a perfectionist, and although bad men had broken her heart time and time again, relatable, I knew that she was going to not stop looking for love until she found herself someone who treated her the way that she deserved to be treated, and that has happened. And then additionally, I also was able to see through all these years that a lot of the men trolling her for this behavior just didn't want someone so big and so powerful and so known and so looked up to by women across the political spectrum like Taylor Swift to get off with doing this freely. Because her being so selective and talking so openly about these men is such a danger to men. Because when you keep doing this, it shows that sometimes it takes this long. Sometimes you need to wait to your 30s or your 40s or your 50s to get married to find someone who is worthy of your love and affection. And it's a fucking nightmare to men who don't want to put forth the effort that women deserve, or, some women, not all women, obviously, but many women deserve. In a relationship, if one of the most famous, or arguably the most famous woman in the world, shows us how to do that, shows us how to be selective, shows us that you can find an incredible, handsome, extraordinarily talented partner if you just keep dumping these suck-ass ones. And on top of dumping these suck-ass ones, you write songs and tell everyone how they treated you, what they did, and air all their fucking dirty laundry. And that is horrifying to bad men. And good on you, Taylor. I hope you fucking have a very, very, very long, happy marriage with Travis. Mazel tov to fucking you. Michael, hand raised.
So I got a question here in the chat, and I was wondering this too. Mm-hmm. On the joint post that they put out, it said your gym teacher and your English teacher are getting married.
Yes.
This Blaze14ZX wants to know, is this a new nickname for the duo, or was Taylor known as the English teacher for a while?
I am not. I want to be very clear. I am a Swiftie, but there are so many Swifties who are so much more knowledgeable about like little Easter eggs and stuff like this. But to my knowledge, this was something new that emerged in the caption. She had never self-referred as an English teacher before. Is that the question? Like that was not like some kind of a nickname for her.
Yeah, that was the question.
Yeah, no, and I know, and it's funny because I love Jared Freed so much, and I saw a clip of him being like, I fucking hate it. It's like when people refer to themselves as mom and dad, when when it's like, but they don't have any kids, they're just like, it's like she said it's like old people behavior, and I agree that it is old person behavior, but to me, like that caption is who Taylor is. this is the real Taylor that we've arrived at, right? I think Taylor was trying to be more artistic than on a cellular level she actually is. She is extraordinarily talented in the work she produces, but I think we've always known this about her. She's kind of regular. She dresses regular. She enjoys a glass of white wine. She hangs out with her cats. She's a regular person. And Travis Kelce, while he is super flashy and dresses cool and is charismatic, he is also regular, and that's why they work together, right? Like, I think, like, if someone is like an overly interesting follow who is an artist on Instagram, they're probably a fucking nightmare to be around in real life, right? Like, she is pretty regular, and this is why I think for a lot of her career, we haven't really gotten to know her as much. Again, Beyonce's done a better job of being hidden. I also think it's because she's a pretty regular person with an extraordinary talent. Less regular than Taylor, though. I think Taylor's like the epitome of regular. And like that was always noticeable, kind of gawky, and like that was always noticeable. And I love that she's finally leaned into it. She's like, yes, I am regular. I'm just a regular person with extraordinary talent. And so is Travis. And saying that the English teacher and the gym teacher finally getting married, although being kind of disparaging to Travis in that, like, your gym teacher was always kind of an idiot. Sorry. Sorry to all the smart gym teachers out there. And your English teacher was usually not an idiot. But yeah, they're regular and they found each other, and she stopped being so obsessed with other people's perception of her, because she has found someone to love her and perceive her as she actually is, and that's Travis Kelce. And I think she's a regular lady who just like wanted to have a glass of white wine and get married and have kids and have a nice life, but she also is a woman who makes extraordinary albums. And that's my thoughts on that. There was a long sigh there, Michael.
Oh yeah, no, I just oof. But I did find
oof what?
Nothing. I just could not care less about this.
This is not for you. This is for the girls.
Of course, it's not for me. That's what I'm saying.
This is for the girls.
No. The other oof was honestly looking over at the YouTube numbers and seeing so many more people tuning in as soon as Taylor Swift got mentioned. That's more.
Wait. So how do they know?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm just.
The Swifties have ears everywhere.
It's nuts, dude.
Well, it bothers me too that I talk about all this death and destruction and corruption. I'm trying to unearth fucking things for you. I'm doing investigative journalism over here, and then my video about Taylor Swift's podcast appearance gets more views than anything. That bothers me too. I will say though, I didn't release audio of the Taylor. That's why the numbers were so high, because I didn't release audio of the Taylor thing, because that was just a YouTube special. That bothers me too.
I did find a nice little moment of zen.
What?
Donald Trump shitting his pants.
He shat his pants?
I believe
today?
So. I don't think it was today, but
oh boy,
it was on the news. This is on, I believe, Fox and Friends. Yeah, FNF, Fox and Friends. Okay, watch Trump.
I can't. It's hard for me to see this far away on this video, but yeah. Does he just like move like he has some slush in his butt?
No, like there is a noticeable brown stain that appears on the couch right in front of him. So they have this circled, and then as the interview goes on,
he shat so much that his own ass didn't even cover it?
No, it like leaked out of his pants.
Oh, God. Get that man a diaper.
And then you see his hands being put down here to now cover up the stain that he made.
Oof.
He's very calculated in not revealing that he has incontinence issues. But
oh my goodness gracious!
Just in the sake of fairness, I was calling Joe Biden and someone who was not fit to lead this country when he was having issues very similar, if even less embarrassing.
Yeah, I was like,
he
wasn't shitting himself.
I mean, there is like there's tapes of him audibly farting in front of world leaders. Who knows if any of it came out solid?
I know people much younger who fart in public, and it's a problem.
All right, fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. It's just if I'm seeing a 70-something-year-old man defecate himself on national television, it's like, at what point?
Yeah.
At what point do we stop just running these people out here?
Yeah.
I mean, at least, I don't know. It seems like he's more active in the pilfering of the nation, which is like, I mean, at least there's something there.
Right.
Whereas Biden was like, let's
he's
go get
sane
some
enough
ice
to
cream.
pilfer. Oh my God. That was good, Mike. I didn't know you did voices now.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a voice guy.
Oh my God. All right. Let's round this out with just a couple of girls. This is something that somehow slipped by me. Another murder that's kind of giving Luigi, which is why I wanted to cover it. This is from The Guardian. And it says, vaccine misinformation led to an officer's murder at the CDC. Politician silence is deafening. And I guess part of the reason that I didn't hear about it is because no one fucking talked about it, apparently. A lie, it says, after a gunman reportedly deceived by anti-vaccine disinformation opened fire on the CDC and fatally shot David Rose, a community grieves as Trump officials remain silent. A lie murdered David Rose. 500 cops packed the pews of an Atlanta megachurch on Friday to bear witness in person to have a memory of the slain DeKalb County police officer that could not be sullied by lies or debased by silence. Slowly, an honor guard of police officers in formal uniform raised their white-gloved hands in salute as Lieutenant Jason Sawyer handed a folded U.S. flag to Rose's toddler, sitting next to her grandmother in the front pews, wearing a shirt with the words, "My daddy is a hero." Her mother was not there, could not be there. She is pregnant with Rose's third child. It was only in this moment that the stone-faced wall of police officers and health workers and politicians finally broke down to weep. 2 weeks ago, a man reportedly deceived by anti-vaccination disinformation opened fire with rifles on the Centers for Disease Control near the campus of Emory University. Rose responded to the shooting immediately. The gunman shot Rose dead, then killed himself. Then the country moved on. Well, most of it. Half the crowd at First Baptist Church of Atlanta at the memorial were cops from Brotherhood of the Fallen, traveling from as far away as New York City and Aurora, Colorado to support Rose's family. Most of the rest of the crowd worked for the CDC or did before being fired by Donald Trump. And this officer who was slain he's a youngish, not super young, but youngish black man. Politicians filled a section. Governor Brian Kemp attended, as did members of the legislature and city councils from around Metro Atlanta. When 22-year-old nursing student Laken Riley was murdered at the University of Georgia by an undocumented immigrant in 2024, peals of moral outrage rang from the lips of every conservative politician in the state, from the stages of Trump rallies to the city council members of Georgia. Her murder became a catalyst for the legislation targeting illegal immigration at the state and federal level. Well, of course, because there was something in it for them. It's not that they actually cared about her; they cared about what they could do with her murder politically, which is create hate. The murder of a police officer and military veteran at the hands of a domestic terrorist while defending federal employees apparently didn't elicit the same outrage. Trump has said nothing in public about this murder that CDC staffers can note. He has said nothing to Rose's family, his grandmother said. And this was especially surprising to me, especially after the shooting a couple weeks ago right here in New York City from the guy who was suffering from, the football injury. Internal communications, because this seems like we would need to know this more. Internal communications from the CDC about the shooting make no reference to the gunman's anti-vaccination motivations. While Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., one of the most renowned purveyors of vaccine conspiracy theories, visited the CDC offices after the shooting, he did not meet with the line himself. The women working at the church coffee shop whispered that J.D. Vance might attend, or Melania Trump. Neither appeared. More than one CDC employee referenced a comment by Russell Vought, director of the Office of Management and Budget, captured last year by ProPublica. "We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected," Vought said. "When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down. We want to put them in trauma." Well, we are traumatized now, one health researcher said. "I thought it was bullets, but I didn't realize they were shooting at us," said one CDC employee, a young woman attending the memorial service who wished not to identify herself for fear of retaliation. And that's something that let's put a pin in that as well, because I think more and more in these articles week after week, we're really seeing the word retaliation, whether it be from Donald Trump himself, the Trump administration, or other angry people in American society. And that is not a good thing. It was horrible and stupid, but I went to the window. As I'm standing by the window, all of a sudden another round starts, a whole bunch of rounds. The gunman fired more than 500 rounds into the building. CDC employees found themselves stepping over broken glass for days. My colleague said, duck, and I ducked, and I literally crawled away, she said. We kind of ran and crawled to an interior office, and we stayed there. And we thought there were many shooters. We had no idea what was going on. This is crazy that we just haven't heard about this. This happened 2 weeks ago. No one affiliated with the CDC would allow themselves to be identified while speaking to the media. They are terrified of losing their jobs, they said. But one said the administration's response severed their final thread of loyalty to the organization. They are loyal to their colleagues now, but not the government agency that employs them. And they are bewildered and betrayed by the silence. The political figures attending the service were similarly quiet. 2 months ago, a man empowered by far-right fear-mongering murdered a state representative in Minnesota and shot a state senator along with their spouses, and it passed out of the news cycle in a week without anyone doing much, one city council person said. And again, that was something I pointed out on this show. That was the top story of the week that it happened. And I could not believe that people weren't fucking flipping the fuck out. That was huge news. And I think it was really underreported. And when it was reported, it was not reported with the level of severity that it deserved. And, you know, I'm only one fucking person in the East Village reporting on my YouTube. But I hope that I tried to, you know, give it the venom or the oomph or highlight it in the way that I thought it, you know, deserved to be highlighted, because I think, and I still think, that is crazy and huge news and very bad news for America. But Edward Big Balls Coristine gets thrashed by teenage hoodlums on a D.C. street corner, and Trump sends in the National Guard, he added. Like the CDC staff, elected officials were reluctant to speak on the record, afraid of becoming a target in all senses of the word. There is a rote ritual to police funerals and to the procedures of grief. Some of it is trite and formulaic, deracinated of its emotional value because of how expected it is. The benediction of prayer seems to feel like the tail end of the thoughts and prayers sentiment. The use of the phrase, the ultimate sacrifice, insufficiently conveys the moral upset of the murder of a good man by a lie. David Rose was a man whose life was defined by service, said interim police chief Greg Padrick, noting his service in the Marine Corps before joining the county police force. David was more than a coworker, he was family. Some at the CDC, too, have survivor's guilt, said Gregory Webb, DeKalb's police chaplain. Consider that this man, who received 6 months of training, took on the weight of the world, and in the face of danger, in the face of adversity, in the face of a violent suspect shooting off all these rounds, he ran into the fire, Webb said. Somebody sat beside him for the very last time in a roll call room. The healing process is going to take a while. I don't care who you are. We all grieve. Rose received a 21-gun salute in the stillness following the fusillade, with mourners solemnly filling a life-size cutout of Rose with signatures and laying flowers at its feet. Rose's cousin quietly wondered when someone might ask how a man with plain mental health problems and increasing agitation could so easily lay hands on long guns. Silence is her answer. It's a heavy story, man. So I just wanted to at least bring this to your attention and to give respect to David Rose. You know, I think we're going to see, again, more and more of these things. People are angry. I experienced it firsthand running for mayor. People are angry, and they're about being lied to, or about being or about perceived lies, or about confusion, or about misinformation, or about not being taken care of. And I think more and more it's going to turn into people who both did have an effect on their lives and didn't. Like in this case, David Rose was just living his life and doing his job. We're going to see these people slain. And is anyone going to do anything about it? Not unless it's self-serving, most likely, as far as like on a government or political level. And then let's see. I wanted to maybe wrap up with this Taylor Lorenz article, or article that Taylor Lorenz I found from her Instagram, who I don't even know how I feel about her. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about her, but I follow her. You know, and then just to summarize some other things, Democratic voter registration is down. Again, put that in the add that to the pile of the Democratic Party falling apart. Trump introduced super high tariffs for India, so that's going to affect certain goods. And then Trump tried to introduce this week that you can't burn the flag. This is his latest White House government update of the week, prosecuting burning of the American flag. A lot of people and experts are saying this is unconstitutional, but this is his executive order as of August 25th by the authority vested in, and it's right on, whitehouse.gov /presidential action /2025/08 / prosecuting burning of the American flag. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered our great American flag is the most sacred and cherished symbol of the United States of America and of American freedom in identity and strength. And, before we even go any further, it's so dictatorial to say that you can't burn the American flag. Like this is so dictatorial. Even the conservatives were pissed about this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of them were. I was watching the scroll on Fox News last night, and it was like, I would say
conservatives love their Constitution.
50-50 on that.
Okay.
But the I don't know. The bigger sentiment to me is like this is largely backlash from like. I've seen memes a lot lately that have been like, did you know it's completely legal to burn the American flag, but illegal to burn the Israeli flag? Like, as of last week, that was the only flag it was illegal to burn.
Oh, that's interesting.
In the United States.
I didn't know that, but I know your mind's always focused on that.
I'm going to
call you Mr. Rachel from now on.
Mr. Rachel?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, listen, if I did half as good for my kid as Miss Rachel has done for
I
kids
know,
of the
I
world,
knew you would love
I'd be
it.
Proud.
Wasn't derogatory.
No, I get it.
And honestly, like anyone, I happen to agree with her stance in this case, but many times, whether or not I agree with someone's stance or not, someone who is willing to put their whole heart and body into something they believe in, I'm always going to respect that about a person. And so I definitely respect that about Miss Rachel. And again, like, there are some comics that I follow, and I don't always respect why they're doing it, but whatever they're doing. But I really respect that they are going for it and putting their whole fucking heart and soul into something that they believe in. I think that is really admirable. And so the White House goes on to say, over nearly 2.5 centuries, many thousands of American patriots have fought, bled, and died to keep the stars and stripes waving proudly. The American flag is a special symbol in our national life that should unite and represent all Americans of every background and walk of life. And this kind of also goes into the concept that I've been talking about, where somehow, somewhere along the way, American flag became unanimous with conservative, Republican, or even MAGA. And that pisses me the fuck off because I love wearing American flag stuff. Desecrating it is uniquely offensive and provocative. It is a statement of contempt, hostility, and violence against our nation, the clearest possible expression of opposition to the political union that preserves our rights, liberty, and security. Burning this representation of America may incite violence and riot. American flag burning is also used by groups of foreign nationals as a calculated act to intimidate and threaten violence against Americans because of their nationality and place of birth. I'm trying to look in here if there's anything. It says the Attorney General shall prioritize the enforcement to the fullest extent possible of our nation's criminal and civil laws against acts of American flag desecration that violate applicable content-neutral laws. I almost want to live stream burning a flag just to see, but I don't think it's worth it because I'm not it needs to be something that I'm more committed to than just a publicity stunt. It wouldn't be a publicity stunt. It would just be a let me, put your money where your mouth is moment. But, if I'm going to jail, which I'm more than comfortable doing, but I don't want to be going, I can't be going to jail over burning the American flag. I think it has to be something a little bit meatier for me to be away from Alfred. So that goes on and on and on or whatever. But I think that's something that we definitely want to put that on your radar. Again, a lot of people are saying this is not going to hold up, but it was just introduced a couple days ago. So we'll see what's going on here. And then Trump also put some FEMA staff on leave after signing a dissent letter. That's pretty quick. That's from NPR. Some employees of the Federal Emergency Management Agency who signed a public letter of dissent earlier this week were put on administrative leave Tuesday evening, according to documents reviewed by the Associated Press. More than 180 current and former FEMA employees, and you know that FEMA is already understaffed, so this is crazy, signed the letter sent to FEMA Review Council and Congress on Monday, critiquing recent cuts to agency staff and programs and warning that FEMA's capacity to respond to a major disaster was dangerously diminished. So his response to saying, to FEMA saying we're dangerously understaffed is to understaff them more. 35 signed because he just wants to be a baby. 35 signed their names while 141 signed anonymously for fear of retribution. Again, retribution, retaliation. Count these words, highlight them, make note of them. This is not normal. Do not pretend that it's normal. Do not let yourself become passive or feel like this is normal, because I assure you it is not. The Associated Press has confirmed that at least 2 of the signatories received notices Tuesday evening informing them that they would be placed on leave indefinitely with pay and that they must still check in every morning, confirming their availability. It was unclear what the status was for other signatories. The notice said the decision is not a disciplinary action and is not intended to be punitive. Yeah. Okay. So that's basically the whole story. It goes on a little bit more, but that's all you guys need to know. And then let's wrap it up with this Taylor Lorenz article. This is from Wired, and it came out. Oh, it's. I just noticed that it's by her. All right. Well, it's fine that it's by her. She did a video about an article also by her. That's fair. So this is from Wired.com. A dark money group is secretly funding high-profile Democratic influencers. I thought this was interesting because we've read a lot about this happening on the right? Not that it was a dark money group, but that, Republicans basically have a lot of influencers on the right doing their bidding. So I think this is interesting to know and very up the alley of this show. An initiative aimed at boosting, because why would the Democrats respond to the Republicans by just actually doing fucking good and giving people what they need? No, of course they have to respond to corruption and nonsense with corruption and nonsense, because things will never get better. I don't believe that, but it's pissing me the fuck off. An initiative aimed at boosting Democrats online offers influencers up to $8,000 a month to push the party line. All they have to do is keep it secret and agree to restrictions on their content. So already I'm out. I mean, I would never, even if someone said, I will pay you to promote these ideals, and they were all ideals that I believed in, I would never take money to do that, unless I was being transparent about it, as you are with an ad read or something, because that's fucking bitch behavior. And bitch is gender neutral in this instance. In a private group chat in June, dozens of Democratic political influencers discussed whether to take advantage of an enticing opportunity. They were being offered $8,000 per month to take part in a secretive program aimed at bolstering Democratic messaging on the internet. But the contract sent to them from Chorus, the nonprofit arm of a liberal influencer marketing platform, came with some strings. And again, I at least the Democrats are trying to play ball in the same way, but I don't love this. Among other issues, it mandated extensive secrecy about disclosing their payments and had restrictions on what sort of political content the creators could produce. In their group chat, influencers debated the details. I would love a list of all the people who even fucking thought about it, because there are people who are online telling you how good they are with their virtue signaling. Should we send a joint email with all of our email addresses, or are we just going to send things separately and hope they change everything for everyone? Lorenzo, a non-binary creator in Columbus, Ohio, with over 884,000 TikTok followers, asked in the group. Some joked about collective bargaining. Any Newsies fans here? Eliza Orlins, we know her well on the show, a public defender and reality TV star known for her appearances on Survivor, posted in the group, "We're a union just by saying so." The influencers in the chat collectively had at least 13 million followers across social platforms. They represented some of the most well-known voices online, posting in support of Democrats, and they're key to wherever the party moves next. But ultimately, the group didn't make much progress. And again, I don't like that. I don't like that these people are even considering being paid, because that makes me not want to believe anything these people put out there, right? And I understand maybe they were trying to like unionize to say like we can't have any restrictions or whatever it is, but like you just should not like you should not be getting paid to post about this. I mean, it's or if it's something like, for instance, like I'm going to give an example from my life, like sometimes like voting organizations like Rock the Vote or whatever will reach out. But they're not offering me money. They're just saying like, Rock the Vote, we're doing this thing to get people to vote. And then I'll go online and be like, hey, you should, Rock the Vote wants me to like promote this thing about voting tonight. I mean, like, and that's like such a weak thing anyway, because it's just telling you to fucking vote. It's not even telling you who to vote for. Because, I don't tell people who to vote for. I do not believe in that. Even when I was running, I said, vote for me or don't vote for me. It's really your choice. But ultimately, the group didn't make much progress. Reading through this revised chorus contract, like you win some, you lose some, a reproductive justice influencer named Pari, who posts under the handle at Women in America, responded later in the thread. I also think there is at least 4 other things that should change, laughing face emoji, but the vibe I got from their email was that there would be minimal, if any, changes. Lorenzo, Orleans, and Pari did not reply to requests for comment. Okay. And this is confusing, just so you know, because so don't get Taylor Lorenz confused with the influencer that we're talking about in here called Lorenzo, just because that's a little bit confusing. So I want to point that out. I don't feel strongly about pushing, to be honest, Aaron Parnas, a Gen Z news influencer who has been called the Gen Z Walter Cronkite and has been lauded in legacy media outlets, posted to the chat. They aren't going to modify it anymore. Seems like a take it or leave it. Parnas declined to comment. I believe we are in stage 5 acceptance, Pari responded. Creators began signing on to the deal. Yuck. For years, Democrats have struggled to work with influencers. In 2024, President Joe Biden's White House snubbed several prominent content creators after they lightly criticized the administration over its policies on climate change, COVID, Gaza, and the TikTok ban. Content creators who challenged Kamala Harris, including Hassan Piker, a well-known influencer on the left, were similarly unwelcome at campaign events. After the Democrats lost in November, they faced a reckoning. It was clear that the party had failed to successfully navigate the new media landscape, while Republicans spent decades building a powerful and robust independent media infrastructure, maximizing controversy to drive attention, and we talked about this before, and maintaining tight relationships with creators despite their small disagreements with Trump. The Democrats have largely relied on outdated strategies and traditional media to get their message out. They've also relied on, if you say one fucking thing that I disagree with, we boot you out of the group. Now, Democrats hope that the secretive Chorus Creator Incubator Program, funded by a powerful liberal dark money group called the 1630 Fund, Mike, if you can find any information that's interesting on them, might tip the scales. The program kicked off last month, and creators involved were told by Chorus that over 90 influencers were set to take part. Creators told Wired that the contract stipulated they'd be kicked out and essentially cut off financially if they even so much as acknowledged that they were part of the program. Some creators also raised concerns about a slew of restrictive clauses in the contract. Influencers included in communication about the program, and in some cases, an onboarding session for those receiving payments from the 1630 Fund include Olivia Juliana, the centrist Gen Z influencer who spoke at the 2024 Democratic National Convention, Lauren Peretra, a former Playboy executive turned political influencer who hosts a podcast for Occupy Democrats, Barrett Adair, a content creator who runs an American Girl doll themed pro DNC meme account. Oh, I know that one. Suzanne Lambert, who has called herself a Regina George liberal, Ariel Fedor, an education creator. Wait, so is the Barrett Adair, the American Girl themed one, is Hillary Merriman? like, I know what that one is. That one upsets me if it's the one I'm thinking of. Ariel Fodor, an education creator with 1.4 million followers on TikTok. Sandra Jennings, a former TLC reality star and older brother of trans influencer Jazz Jennings. I mean, you can't trust anyone who's a reality TV star. Obviously, look at our president. David Pakman, who hosts an independent progressive show on YouTube covering news and politics. Lee McGowan, who goes by the online moniker Politics Girl, and dozens of others. The first two declined to comment. The rest did not respond to requests for comment. This hurts my soul. According to copies of the contract viewed by Wired that creators signed, the influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus or the 1630 Fund, or functionally that they're being paid at all. Which is crazy because anytime you're doing a collab on Instagram that is a paid promotion, you do have to say that you are. So, and that's more for like brand deals. But under this context, if you are being paid, it is by definition a paid partnership. And so while you might be abiding by the rules that you signed in this contract with the 1630 Fund, you are then breaking the rules of Instagram, and they should find who these people are and boot them the fuck off, or TikTok, or whatever it is. I don't know the TikTok's rules as well as I know Instagram's, but Instagram certainly has the paid, you must disclose paid partnerships. Dozens of liberal influencers are believed to have been approached by Chorus about the 1630 Fund financing opportunity this spring. They were told that Chorus appreciated the work that they were doing online and were asked if they'd be interested in being a part of the first cohort of a new program that Chorus was running to help, quote, expand the reach and impact, creators tell Wired. But following the initial outreach, many creators expressed concern about some stipulations. According to copies of the contract viewed by Wired, creators in the program must funnel all bookings with lawmakers and political leaders through Chorus. Creators also have to loop Chorus in on any independently organized engagements with government officials or political leaders. If I want to work with another politician, I have to fully collaborate with them, said one creator who was offered the contract but ultimately declined to take it and asked not to be named. If I get Zoran and he wants to do an interview with me, I don't want to give that to them. Of course, all roads lead back to Zoran. Creators in the program are not allowed to use any funds or resources that they receive as part of the program to make content that supports or opposes any political candidate or campaign without express authorization from Chorus in advance and in writing per this contract. Anyone who signed this is fucking useless. They are useless. I mean, you should not take anything they have to say seriously. And I say, just like you want to release the Epstein list, release the Chorus list. The contracts reviewed by Wired prohibit standard partnership disclosures, declaring that creators will not publicize their relationship with Chorus or tell others that they're members of the program without Chorus's prior express consent. They also forbid creators from disclosing the identity of any funder and give Chorus the ability to force creators to remove or correct content based solely on the organization's discretion if that content was made at a Chorus organized event. So we're seeing what happened in podcasting now happen with content creation, which is that people get in it at the start and are really sharing independent ideas that are not influenced by people with money and power. And then when the people with money and power see how valuable these platforms are, they wiggle their fucking little noses into it. And this is a contract point that I fought so hard when we signed our Luminary contract. And whatever you think about Luminary as a platform, please know that when Christine and I signed the Luminary contract, I said, we are not changing our point of views. We are not running our point of views by you. And if you start replying to episodes saying you shouldn't have said this, you shouldn't have said that, I am out fucking immediately. So don't even fucking try it. And guess what? All these years later, they've never once done that. And so no matter what you think of that, please know that. And I would absolutely not work with a company who did that. This is fucking bullshit. And so just know you should get off Instagram because you're wasting your time on there, because all this shit is not the people who you love and have created a relationship with anymore telling you the truth. It's people who have gotten sucked into a money pit and are now doing things for money. And even if these are things that are fine to believe, this is this dangerous and fucking slippery slope, and this pisses me the fuck off. Oh my God. All right. Right. There are some real great advantages to housing this program in a nonprofit. Graham Wilson, a lawyer working with Chorus, said to creators on a Zoom call reviewed by Wired, it gives us the ability to raise money from donors. It also, with this structure, it avoids a lot of public disclosure or public disclaimers. Paid for blah, 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 that you see on political ads. And if you think it's hard to post about a paid sponsorship or paid partnership on Instagram, you should look into the rules and legalities if you try to post political ads, which obviously I've just been through. We don't need to deal with any of that. Your names aren't showing up on like reports filed with the FEC. Wilson did not reply to a request for comment. The Federal Election Commission declined to comment. The goal of Chorus, according to a fundraising deck obtained by Wired, is to build new infrastructure to fund independent progressive voices online at scale. You know what? You could do this. I agree that progressives voices do need backing. Just be fucking transparent about it. And say, I've paired with Chorus. My views remain my own, but I'm going to continue to talking about the things I want to talk about that I think are fucking important. But now it's going to be able to be spread a lot more widely because I have Chorus backing my ability to pay for pushing this into the algorithm more, or upping my studio, or improving my sound quality, or hiring an editor. There are ways to ethically do this because conceptually I agree with what they're doing. But ethically, I do not agree with how they're going about it. The creators who join the incubator are expected to attend regular advocacy trainings. Wild. You cannot train someone on how to fucking be an advocate unless it's like for sexual assault. Like this is crazy. They're calling it advocacy trainings, and it really should be called brainwash meetings and daily messaging check-ins. Those messaging check-ins are led by Cohen on rapid response days. The creators also have to attend at least 2 Chorus newsroom, in quotes, events per month, which are events Chorus plans often with lawmakers. Oh, everything is so fake, guys. Elizabeth Dubois, an assistant professor and university research chair. I mean, I know I could be lying to you just like everyone else is. Like, I promise you I'm not. If any of this shit even came across my desk, I would read you the full fucking email on the air. You know I would. I'm fucking reading DMs from famous comedians right and left. Like, Elizabeth Dubois, an assistant professor and university research chair in politics, communication, and technology at the University of Ottawa, who has researched the ways influence are reshaping the U.S. political system, says that we are seeing influencers being pulled into these dark campaigns or shadow campaigns where the legal aspect is murky at best. Sometimes it is actually clear that influencers are being used, for example, evade spending limits, she says. Fucking this is giving me fucking shades of what OnlyFans is doing, pretending to care about comedy, but they're really just evading tax things for sex work. I think that we need to remember that for democracy to thrive, we do need transparency around who is paying for political messages. Absolutely we do. Abso-fucking-lutely we do. I can't even believe this is a conversation we're having. Don Heater, the chief executive of Markula Center for Applied Ethics at Santa Clara University, says that the outlined restrictions violate ethical norms. If the contract for getting money from a particular interest group says you can't disclose it, then it's pretty simple. You can't take the money, he says. We're living in an era where a lot of powerful people have basically taken the rule book and thrown it out the window. Keith Edwards, a Democratic content creator who has skyrocketed to fame on YouTube since starting his channel last year, was not invited to be part of the program, but believes that the way it was structured seemed predatory. Yes. He says that he would never agree to take part in a program that was run in secret or wouldn't allow him to disclose funding. It is predatory, but these creators, if they are fucking influencers and they have followings, they should fucking know better not to sign this. This is very clear what this is, and you cannot trust an influencer who has been convinced to sign this contract for whatever reason, because either they're too stupid or they're too greedy, and neither of them are good. You shouldn't listen to either. What I don't understand is why wouldn't you just donate to creators directly who have already built something and just need to put gasoline on the fire? Exactly what I just pitched. Democrats at least understand that the internet exists now, so that's good. Ooh, shots fired. But they still think influencers are just there to do a terrible direct-to-camera interview that no one watches rather than just treating us like another form of media. The influencers offered the funding were given just days to sign the contract, which is, a big industry trick. A lot of times when you show up to set, a contract that could have easily been sent to your representatives days in advance is handed to you on the set. And if any of you are ever put in that situation, please know, first of all, do not sign it until at least a manager, an agent, or preferably a lawyer has gone over it, and take a picture of it, because they say they're going to send you. They always go, oh, I'll email you a copy. Fucking do not trust these people. Fucking photograph it, send it, and read through the points yourself. And if you are handed the day you're supposed to do something, a very thick contract, say, I am not signing this until I have a legal representative look this over. If they continue to pressure you, you can rest assured something bad is in there. Also, for regular appearances on radio, TV, whatever, it should be pretty much a really thin contract. If you're just like a guest speaker or something, if it's a really thick contract, that should only be presented if it's like your TV series in which your lawyer would have had months to go over it. Before you shoot a television pilot, know that lawyers are going over it for months. Everything is ironed out before any actors even set foot on a soundstage or set or whatever it is. Which was essentially presented on a take it or leave it basis. At least one cohort was specifically told they could not have their lawyers redline it. People have said before, like, we won't accept changes, but that's not good. And really, no reputable people would do that, and you shouldn't work with that person. In the group chat form to discuss contract negotiations, some creators discussed a clause prohibiting the disparagement of other creators. Not being able to criticize anyone else affiliated with Chorus felt restrictive to some. Almost like not being able to criticize anyone else in comedy. According to text messages posted to the chat. Eventually, the creators in the group chat agreed to drop the issues they had. I don't think Chorus is out to screw us. Orleans, a creator who was offered $8,000 per month, said in the chat. And that fucking kills me because I love Eliza's content and she is a fucking lawyer and she's saying that. That is not fucking good, dude. Did you hear that, Michael? I know you love Eliza as well.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
That's wild for someone as smart as her, who's also a lawyer, to say that. Any lawyer I know errs on the side of overly cautious. Any lawyer I know. That's what makes a lawyer. Lawyers are constantly causing me a headache in my life because they're so fucking safe. And again, it's her, she's making a choice for herself. But to be so naive to say that she doesn't think they're out to screw us makes me very wary of her content. God damn it.
Well, I mean, the next line might explain why.
Yeah, I know. So some influencers for Chorus Creator Incubator Program were offered as little as $250 per month, according to one creator who declined to accept the deal, while others were offered membership into the Amplifier cohort, which provides up to $8,000 per month. I mean, what, money?
No, what I'm saying is maybe Eliza was one of the ones getting $8,000 a month, and then she's supposed to go in there and tell everybody, hey, they're not trying to screw us.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean...
You know what I'm saying?
That doesn't make me trust her.
No, of course not. I'm just saying that might be why she was doing it.
Bums me the fuck out. The 1630...
And then it's like, I don't know, I look back at the content she's been producing over the last 6 months or so, and you go, how much of this was paid for?
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I'm thinking. That's exactly what I'm thinking for any of these influencers that I am familiar with. Again, just, oh, God. Fuck me. And then I'm sitting here and that makes all of us untrustworthy because, like, I can tell you that I'm not doing that, but you don't know. And I just have to go off like, well, I hope that we formed a relationship enough at this point, and I'm not famous enough at this point that you know that I would be more famous if I was doing shit like this. But just so you guys know, I'm a fucking loose cannon. People don't like working with me because they know that I don't follow fucking any rules, except for not littering. The 1630 Fund has emerged as a powerful funder in democratic spaces in recent years. Its website notes that issues supported by the organization include economic equity, affordable health care, climate solutions, racial justice, voter access, and other essential social change goals. The organization was founded in 2009 as a liberal response to conservative dark money groups and organizations like the Koch Network, and under Trump, it has soared. In 2018, the 1630 Fund provided $141 million to more than 100 left-leaning causes in order to bolster Democratic support during the midterms, according to a tax filing obtained by Politico. In 2020, the fund distributed more than $400 million, according to the organization's public tax filing, which Politico said was used in efforts to unseat then-President Donald Trump and Republican Senate majority. In 2022, the 1630 Fund spent $196 million backing state ballot measures on abortion rights heading into the midterms, according to NBC. Just 4 donors accounted for close to 2/3 of the fund's revenue in 2023, according to its tax filing. The largest donor gave the group $50.5 million, with others donating $31.4 million, $21.8 million, and $13.6 million. So you go, where is this money coming from? Who are these funders? What is spreading this perspective going to, how is it going to help them? Because you know it's helping them in some way. You're not shelling out that money like that from the goodness of your fucking heart. I mean, I guess if there's a select few who might, but overall, I'm guessing no. The 1630 Fund, which is not required to disclose its contributors, has for years been a major funding source for liberal and progressive causes and groups, including those that spend in elections, says Walker Davis, a research director for the open government group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Though their recent tax returns indicate that they have pulled back from the eye-popping sums they raised and spent in 2020, the organization is still one of the top spending politically oriented nonprofits in the country. Chorus, which is described in contracts reviewed by Wired as a project of the 1630 Fund that handles operations for the Creator Program, launched in November 2024 as a nonprofit arm of Good Influence, a for-profit influencer marketing agency aimed at helping content creators connect with social good campaigns. Good Influence was founded in October 2020 by Stuart Perlmutter, the former communications director for Representative John Yarmouth of Kentucky. Seeing an opportunity after Kamala Harris's loss last November, Perlmutter co-founded Chorus with Democratic influencer Brian Tyler Cohen, who has over 4.6 million subscribers on YouTube and leads messaging check-ins for the creator cohort on rapid response days. According to records reviewed by Wired, Chorus claims that its initial creator cohort has a collective audience of more than 40 million followers with more than 100 million weekly viewers, and that the organization has hundreds of creators signed up and ready to amplify messaging. And this was so interesting because as people started to get on board with Zoran, I did wonder, are any of these people being paid? Because it was just so much more people than I had seen in the past. And yes, I do agree that many people organically wanted to promote him and talk to him and stuff. But there was a part of me thinking, like, is some of this fucking paid? I can't tell. Did you find anything about this group or perhaps Stuart Perlmutter that's of interest, Michael?
No, I mean, I went to their About section. The only thing that's really popping up is Amy Kurtz, who is the president of the 1630 Fund. 30 years of experience managing electoral and advocacy campaigns across the country.
Okay.
She spoke at Columbia School for Professional Studies earlier this year, so I was able to look up just her speaker profile there.
Okay.
I have a thing on Influence Watch here.
Influence Watch?
Yeah, it's just influencewatch.org. Never heard of this site before.
Me neither.
They are, they're looking into influencers, and it's just, it's picking up that Taylor Lorenz story.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. I spent most of my career researching right-wing media and sounding the alarms about the collapse of our old information environment, Ellie Langford, the director of programming at Chorus, said on a Zoom call with dozens of creators in June. Our political systems haven't been able to figure out a real solution, and I've been really excited to see you all treading the path forward. I deeply, deeply believe that the work you're all doing is what's going to make the difference in supporting and, frankly, resuscitating our democracy. You're right there. Already, creators in the program are creating content together. In a new weekly series titled Good News in Politics, 6 creators in the program shared a collaborative video running through political wins. Follow these creators bringing you hope instead of doom scrolling at Sandra_Jennings, at E. Orleans, at Jess Craven 101, at Tono.Latino, at Gemma Talks, at The Z Activist, they posted. While some creators have been eager to work with Chorus, others distrust the organization. This spring, Chorus faced a wave of backlash from prominent content creators whose images were included in the firm's fundraising decks without permission. I was included on some of Chorus's decks, like we have access to V when you do not, said V. Spihar, a liberal content creator with over 3.5 million followers on TikTok. The faces of several well-known influencers were featured prominently on the Chorus website beneath a giant donate button. However, users who clicked the button were taken to a fundraising page for Chorus instead of anywhere their dollars would go directly to the creators featured. Progressive YouTuber and former Media Matters staffer Kat Abou-Gazaleh, who's running for Congress in Illinois, was pictured on Chorus's website and included in fundraising decks without her consent. She asked that her image and name be removed and no longer used for fundraising purposes. And good for her. I really like her. I think she has a fucking incredible amount of chutzpah. She would probably hate being described by that word, but I really like her. And I hope that she is the person that we see in her videos, actually. Spihar and other content creators have accused Chorus of attempting to establish themselves as a gatekeeper to democratic political leaders. What we need is for people to invest in independent media, and that doesn't necessarily mean investing in a consulting group that is going to become a middleman for independent media, says Spihar. Several influencers who doggedly defended Chorus throughout the controversy, including Elizabeth Booker Houston, a Democratic comedian and content creator on Instagram, and Ali O'Brien, a progressive creator with more than 600,000 followers on TikTok, were involved in membership talks for the highest paid tier in Chorus's new Creator Incubator program. This is terrible. Houston did not respond to requests for comment. O'Brien declined to comment. Still, some creators heard about the 1630 Fund and Chorus Funding Initiative and applied to join. One creator named Chesco, who goes by @TheSpeechProf online, applied to join the program because he viewed it as an opportunity to get access to people that have funding or backing in actual research that I could use, he says. Ultimately, he wasn't accepted and received an email on June 26th rejecting his application. We are planning to bring more creators into the incubator program in the near future, Chorus wrote. The structure of the program highlights the vast difference between how Democrats and Republicans attempt to amass online influence. Republicans have spent decades building up a powerful independent media ecosystem, though the right-wing influencer world is far from transparent. In September 2024, a federal indictment alleged that the Russian state-sponsored network RT was covertly providing millions in funding to Tenet Media, a company working with major right-wing influencers, including Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, we talked about that, Dave Rubin, and Lauren Southern. In 2024, the National Republican Congressional Committee spent nearly $500,000 on work with Creator Grid, an influencer marketing company whose website says it connects Republican candidates with the internet's most powerful conservative influencers, according to analysis of campaign finance filings from the Washington Post. Stephen Buckley, a digital media sociologist at City St. George's University of London, says that these sorts of programs have been happening in the right wing for ages. And he's correct, but that doesn't mean that we have to stoop to their level. But Hyder says that the structure of the 1630 Fund deal raises the question, is it ethical to match the tactics of your opponents? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great ethical question. Not absolutely. I agree that you should match them. I do not agree with that. The Democrats appear to have no real counter to this system. Democrats, and we've seen the Democrats doing this for a long time. Like, oh, you're playing dirty, I'm going to play dirty. Like, this is not the move. The Democrats appear to have no real counter in this to this system. Democrats miss the next generation of media, says Brendan Gahan, and they are so far behind. That is so true. Co-founder of influencer marketing agency, so now they're fucking fumbling. Co-founder of influencer marketing agency Creator Authority. Historically, they owned Hollywood. Okay. But this next generation of influence is digital, and they've miscalculated that. I don't think they feel comfortable in arenas where they lack control. That is highly, highly interesting article. And at this point, there's so many things that I've watched that or read about how much shit that we intake on a daily basis on Instagram. It's not only wasting our time, it's not true. It's fake. It's fabricated. A lot of these feel good videos that I enjoy are fucking staged. Like just a lot. Like someone told me that there's like magicians who own like a whole fake like house and like a fake airplane set up to make these like fucking fake viral videos that they just get a lot of money on. So I think we just should all log off and be very wary of the people who you choose to trust. And this is a super disheartening, but I think you guys really need to know it. It's really, really pertinent to this show. So that is our show today. Thank you. I know this was a long one. I had a lot of stuff to go over, a lot of municipal stuff. I hope you guys are having an incredible week. Please make sure to buy your tickets to Gash and to Guys We Fucked at the New York Comedy Festival. That's all Los Angeles and New York, respectively, New York City. And make sure that you're following me on Instagram and on X. I'm at Philanthropy Gal. I'm on Threads as well. And make sure that you click subscribe if you enjoyed what you saw here today. Again, we're making a lot of improvements, hiring additional people to make this the best show that it can be, especially when in a time I think it's so important that left-leaning people have non-biased, non-paid-for perspectives floating around the internet, and also women are on YouTube. Women. YouTube is still a male-dominated space, and more women need to be on there with higher profiles. And again, I mean, I would like it to be, but if it's not me, let's lift other. I hate when people say lift up, but I do mean that. So yeah, and just thanks for listening, but.
Take a deep breath.
Release anything that feels too heavy for you. And Mike, do you have anything that you would like to promote?
Yeah, September 18th. I have 2 different things that night. Anxiety Attack and Armored Combat. Don't know how I'm going to do both, but you should get tickets to one of them. Armored Combat, Melrose Ballroom, armoredleague.com for tickets.
Super fun. I highly recommend that for a unique night out. You can go with a date. You can go with friends. It's a really fun time. And that's our show for today. If you're interested in being a capitalist pig or a cutie for as little as $6 a month, please head over to patreon.com/withoutacountry. You help to create and build this show, and you can leave comments and everything. And Christopher Fungi, all hail to our great and wonderful dictator. I will talk to you next Wednesday. Thanks for being here. Peace. Bye.